The meeting will come to order. Could we please have the roll call?
Okay, Ken Boleski,
Here.
Nick Burns,
Here.
Nina Beasley,
Here.
Cindy Bessie,
Here.
thank you.
Alrighty, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright. So are there any corrections to the May 21st, 2025 minutes?
No. No.
Alrighty. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the May 21st minutes. Second.
Alright.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so we will now have the consideration of the Calvary Rathdrum Calvary Rathdrum Conditional Use Permit, 2025. Alrighty, so let me pull that out real quick. Alrighty. Alrighty, so I will now open the public hearing for the Calvary Rathdrum Condition Use Permit 2025, correct? Okay, I just want to make sure I'm on the right track here. So, following the public hearing, the commission will consider all relevant evidence and legal criteria stated in the Rathdrum City Code and give its recommendation. And actually, that's when I should have done the gavel. Sorry about that. Alrighty. So, are there any conflicts of interest, ex parte communications, or bias that any of you need to put on the record?
No.
Okay, no. Is there any member of the audience who wishes to challenge the participation of any commissioner based on the appearance of fairness grounds? Okay, seeing none. Alrighty, this hearing shall proceed as follows. Staff will introduce the application with a brief overview. The applicant will present their application. Staff will present their report. The members of the public will have the opportunity to testify, starting with those in favor, then neutral, then those opposed. If you would like to speak, you must sign in, including your address, on one of the public hearing comment sheets and provide the sheet to me or staff, which we already have so far. When your name is called, please approach the microphone and state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Comments should be addressed to the commission, be relevant to the information in the record and the applicable legal criteria that the commission will be considering for this application, which I stated earlier, and should not be personally derogatory or repetitive. Public comment will not be accepted out of order from seated members of the public or after the hearing is closed. So please make sure that you speak during your time provided if so motivated. Following the public testimony, the applicant will have a chance for rebuttal. Does anybody in the audience have any questions about these rules? Okay, seeing none. Oh,
The sign-ins are where?
should be at the back table. Yeah, right on your left. All right, thank you.
Below the yellow sign.
Yeah. Alrighty then. Is any more questions or? All right. So we will now have staff introduce the application.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, Commission, and members of the audience. The item before us at the moment is the Calvary Rathdrum CUP 2025. It is a request for a conditional use permit to construct and operate a church or place of worship on property that is zoned industrial. Speaking on behalf of the applicant will be Pastor Corey Kirkham of Calvary Rathdrum.
Thank you. Calvary Rathdrum has been a part of this community for almost 25 years. We are deeply invested in what is best for Rathdrum, and we believe even in regard to this conditional use permit, we are pursuing not just what is helpful for us, but also at the same time what is best for the interest of this community. By seeking a conditional use permit for this particular property, not only will we be able to relocate our church to a better suited location that will allow for plentiful parking and that will have less impact on local traffic, we will also create a bit of a buffer between the industrial use area and the residential neighbor directly to the south. It's my understanding that we clearly meet all 8 of the conditions required And so we simply ask that you grant this conditional use permit.
Alright,
Thank you.
alrighty.
And back to me. As I mentioned, this is the Cavalry Raptor CUP 2025. This slide shows the location of the property, which is identified as lots 1 through 3, block 3 of Rybeck Industrial Park. There's 2 maps there, and if you notice the map in the upper left, it isn't subdivided. There's not lots there. The final plat of the Rybeck Industrial Park was approved by council about 2 meetings ago, and we're currently waiting acceptance of the infrastructure, the public utilities that were installed there. Because those have not been installed and the plat has not been gone up for final acceptance, the city has added a condition of approval for the CUP, should it be approved, that it's contingent on the acceptance of that infrastructure in Rybeck. They wouldn't be able to start building until that infrastructure had been accepted by the city. Let's see here. The comprehensive plan land use designation for this property is MDR, medium density residential, as shown on the adopted future land use map. The zoning is actually industrial, which actually is okay according to our land use table. Churches are conditional uses in both residential and industrial areas. They're only permitted outright in a commercial zone. So it doesn't matter whether this was zoned as a residential or as industrial, they would still have to go through this process right here to gain a conditional use in order to establish the church on that property. Okay, this, I believe I'm gonna say it twice, once now and once at the end of my presentation. This is Title 67, Chapter 65, this is the Local Land Use Planning Act. And it states that approval or denial of any application required or authorized pursuant to this chapter shall be based on standards and criteria which shall be set forth in the comprehensive plan, zoning ordinance, or other appropriate ordinance or regulation of the city or county. Such approval standards and criteria shall be set forth in express terms and land use ordinances in order that permit applicants, interested residents, and decision makers alike may know the express standards that must be met in order to obtain a requested permit or approval. So what that means is that the conditions for any land use action have to be spelled out in our ordinances, in city code. For a conditional use permit, there are 8 of them. The first of them, that the property or the conditional use is established in the zoning title for the zoning district involved. This is a clip taken directly from our land use table. On the right, you see churches, places of worship. On the top, you see the industrial zone, and where that column and row combine, it says C, which indicates that it's a conditional use in that zone. 2, will be harmonious with and in accordance with general objectives or any specific objective of the comprehensive plan and or this title. Staff review found no discrepancy between the general or specific objectives of the comprehensive plan or Title 15 in regard to the pending application. So we move to 3. It will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services. Public utilities exist in Nagel Road and the newly constructed Carly Lane. Public services, including fire, police, and EMS, are already provided to the property. The school district does not have a stake on this. It's an industrial property. There's no residences allowed, so there's no generation of students to the school. Number 4, it will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be harmonious and appropriate in appearance with the existing or intended character of the general vicinity, and that such use will not change the essential character of the same area. Whatever is built on that property will be developed in compliance with Rathdrum City Code 1563 and provide as for this is a non-industrial use on the property, which as the pastor stated, will help to create a buffer from other industrial uses which may exist to the north and the residential properties to the south across Nagel. there is no indication, evidence that approval of this request would change the essential nature of the area. At this time, it's vacant land. So, I mean, it will change it in that aspect. There'll be a building there, but not the character really of the area. Number 5, it will not create excessive additional requirements as to public costs or public facilities and services. It will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. The proposal doesn't create any additional or excessive cost for public facilities or services. There's the incremental increase for fire, EMS, and police. They are gonna gain impact fees from development on the property, but the property itself is already served by those services because it's within the city. And the church itself is not expected to be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. Number 6, will not involve uses, activities, processes, materials, equipment, and conditions of operation that would be detrimental to any person's property or the general welfare by reason of excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, fumes, glare, or odors. Other than the possible excessive noise of true celebration there, none of those appear to, sorry about that, I thought it was being funny. Number 7, it will have vehicular approaches to the property which shall be so designed as to not create interference with traffic and surrounding public thoroughfares. The subdivision, Rybeck, there's no direct access from any lot onto Nagel Road. So this property will be accessed via Carly and then come down on the roadway there. And number 8, it will not result in the destruction, loss, or damage of a natural, scenic, or historic feature of major importance. There is nothing on that ground, like nothing historic except for dirt, nothing important. There's no impact to number 8 as well. So again, those are the standards. Approval or denial of the application is required to be based in those 8 criteria. I have submitted my staff report, code analysis, and all attachments to you. They are located on the website.
All right,
I'm all done.
thank you. If any of us have any questions, can we ask?
Can I ask staff, yeah?
Okay, do any of you have any questions?
No.
All right, then we'll move on. Okay, so we will now get into public comment, public testimony, and we're gonna start with those in favor.
Okay, actually, hold on one sec.
Yeah,
What one are you,
On the
right back?
item number.
Oh, that, Calvary.
Church.
Oh, okay, no problem.
and
Thank you.
Anita,
I apologize.
That's all good.
is this, which action item did you wanna speak on?
The Bakel annexation.
Okay,
Okay, so here are all Calgary.
okay. Bagel annexation. And, let's see, local annexation. All right, so, let's see. All right, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak in favor of the Calvary-Rathdrum condition use permit? Okay, seeing none. How about anybody that is neutral? All right, seeing none, we will go to those who are opposed. So we have Brent, is it Brent Conning? Cannon.
Yes.
All right, would you like to come and speak?
So my name's Brent Canning. My address is 29572 North Highway 57, Priest Lake, Idaho. I'm a property owner within the Thayer Industrial Park. I'm also the owner to the north of the Rybeck Industrial Park. I'm opposed to the church. I'm opposed not to churches particularly, but to the spot zoning, putting a church in industrial area. Industrial areas have heavy equipment. They have a lot of heavy truck traffic. Churches bring in a lot of residents, a lot of people walking in the streets, a lot of kids playing if they have, say, a daycare or if they do a bazaar or something like that. And it potentially could be a very dangerous situation if some of the younger kids were to wander off into the industrial area. say chasing a ball or something like that. Also, you had mentioned the economic impact to the Rathdrum. Rathdrum is in need of business. Business supports infrastructure. Businesses pay taxes. By paying taxes, you keep the infrastructure up to date, and thereby the residents don't have to pay the additional cost for the taxes to maintain the infrastructure. I have known one parcel particularly that was zoned commercial that is adjacent or kitty corner to the Rybeck that was downzoned to single family from a commercial location. That was 10 acres. That's 10 acres taken off the tax roll that could have been used for commercial property. We need commercial property in Rathdrum. You have some on the highway and some other on the highway, but we're broken up. We need to concentrate our industrial area to a center point where residents can go to work, either walk to work or bus to work, where they can make a good income and then take it home with them and spend it here in Rathdrum. Other opposition I have, number one, I believe it was improperly notified. So the comments for written were due by the 25th or 26th of April, and notice was not sent out until the 1st of June. Also, not all industrial owners in their industrial park received notice of this hearing. And in addition, all public hearings are supposed to be posted on the property that is affected by the public hearing, and no posting ever took place. And those are my comments.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
In addition, not only myself, Martin Canning, another property owner, Art Thayer, another property owner, we have all talked about it and we're all in agreement. I don't have anything written, but they would like me to express that.
Do anybody have any
Thank you.
questions?
No.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, now we have, is it Victoria? Canning? Ah, sorry, come on.
My name's Victoria Canning. My address is 1301 East Coeur d'Alene Avenue, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I'm a property owner in the industrial park that we're speaking of in Rathdrum. I'm also not opposed to a church being constructed in Rathdrum, but I am opposed to the construction of the church in the industrial property. My family has owned property on the Rathdrum Prairie for now 5 generations. 4 generations we worked the soil and had industry and continue to have industry on more than 47 acres on the Rathdrum Prairie currently. Most of it falls inside the zoning of the industrial park that's in question. I believe that changing the zoning and allowing a church to be built there restricts the usage of the industrial land. It limits what type of work can be done there and the hours in which that work can be done. And I mentioned the Idaho Code sections 23-913 and 23-101 1011B, where it dictates what types of restrictions can occur in that property if a church or school was placed there in the industrial park. I would like to speak against James' comment that nothing important is happening on that land, and point again to the legacy of my family and the industry that we've carried on the Rathdrum Prairie for generations. It is important. Currently, it's not being used because there was 2 deaths in the family.
That property's been vacant since it was annexed into the city in '91. There's been no development on that parcel specifically. We're not talking about other parcels or property in the prairie. This particular parcel has never been developed since it has
The
been annexed
industrial
into the
use
city and
of
zoned
that
industrial.
property has been used, and it is currently under ag status. And I too was disagreed with that change today because of the improperly noticed. I did not receive notice of the hearing.
Alrighty, your time is up, but I do have a question. So is your property adjacent to this property?
It is adjacent to the complex, yes.
And-
What parcel? It's not adjacent to this parcel, it's adjacent to Rybeck.
Right.
On the subdivision
Okay.
that this is a part of.
When I'm speaking for Art Thayer, who's the next one, he is adjacent, and I'm
So
adjacent to him.
is there, when you said that there are certain things that if this were to happen, is it going to limit, or is it
Yeah.
going, but in what way? Like, what will it prohibit the other people that own their property from doing if this were to go through?
It restricts what I can do as an industrial owner
On your property?
on my property because of the proximity of the church and school.
So what exactly would it prohibit you from doing?
That's a fair question.
Yeah,
And
because
I'll ask for-
we have to have all the facts and
Okay.
evidence to be able to know, like, what exactly would it be prohibiting you from doing
Okay.
on your property?
Can I turn over this to Brent Canning
We're not,
and allow him to
we
speak?
can't do that?
On her behalf, to answer the question?
We don't want people to speak on behalf of others.
The property itself has been farmed, was farmed until 2022. My grandfather passed, and it took some time to organize
Right,
what was going on.
yeah. Yeah.
One of the restrictions would be no liquor within 1,000 feet. So something like an Applebee's would be restricted from using the property.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, we can maybe talk
Yeah,
about that
we'll
during
talk about it.
discussion.
We'll ask more
Yeah,
questions,
yeah,
yeah.
but thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Alrighty, so now we have, there were both for Victoria. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to testify that is opposed to this? Alright, seeing none, we will now have rebuttal for this. Does the applicant, would you like to rebut on this?
I would simply point out that under a conditional use permit, this is an allowable usage. It may not be favorable in the Canning family's eyes, but it is an allowable usage according to code with the conditional use permit. As they speak on behalf of a couple of other families, I would speak then on behalf of many other families who attend the church here in Rathdrum, who desire to see this take place, and who see this as being in the best interest of the community. As far as any kind of economic impact, as far as tax rolls, we will be selling our property here in the heart of Rathdrum, which will offset any loss of tax income by the church taking on the property there in the Rybeck development. We are located right next to a neighborhood, and I think that we represent the best use of that property. Any questions?
When you purchase property, and I don't know who you purchased it from, was any stipulations given to you, knowing you own a church and that's what you were purchasing it for?
We do not yet own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have not yet purchased it because
Okay.
it has not passed final approval for breaking up the lots.
Okay, makes sense. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
No other questions?
I have questions.
Mhm.
So, in terms of
Is the public hearing closed?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. So yes, the public hearing is now closed. I do apologize about that. Alrighty, so I have some questions. So, in regards to the issue of it prohibiting people from other properties being able to do things on their property? Is there any legal things that you understand about
There
that?
is a state prohibition against the sale of alcohol within 300 feet of a school.
In a church.
And church.
In a church.
Yes.
Okay, let's do this.
Yeah, what?
23-1011 B2. Except with the approval of the governing body of the municipality.
Okay, within 300 place of any public school, church, or any other place of worship, measured in a straight line to the nearest entrance,
The nearest entrance to the licensed premises.
except with the approval of the governing body of the municipality, which means that the city can override that 300 feet. What I'm trying to pull up is a map, so that we can look at distances there. Have you measured or seen a map that shows the distance between the northern boundary of this parcel and your parcels?
I don't know the exact location of your church building or entrances, so I would need that before I could measure.
Okay, so give me just 1 second.
So basically, like she was saying, an Applebee's or something that served alcohol couldn't be theoretically placed in the parcel next to it without
Permission of the city.
permission of the city.
How
So,
I'm reading this code. 'Cause
okay,
it does
so-
say except with the approval of the governing body of the municipality.
so if we were to recommend approval with conditional approval that any development around it
We can't
would-
do that, because then we'd be encumbering properties that aren't subject to this land use action. Right, this land use action is just parcel 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Block 3 of right. So we can't say this is okay, but somebody who comes in here later has to be dance through hoops because of you.
Well, no, I'm saying that, like, if an Applebee's wanted to come in, that it was okay.
Well, if they meet the requirements of our liquor license, then they get one. We don't.
Except-
We don't restrict that just because they're necessarily within 300 feet of a church.
Right, no, but wouldn't that prohibit somebody from being able to build it because they're within the 300 feet? Is what I'm trying to
If
say.
they get our approval though, then they
Yes,
can
it would
build
restrict it.
Yeah, but they get still, what I'm trying to get at is, if this was approved with conditions that the surrounding lots, if they had alcohol were sold, that they would be allowed without restriction.
If it's voted on.
Right, that's what I'm just theoretically, if that was the case, could that be
I
a
don't know if
condition?
that would be a legal condition, cause like James said, you're putting that condition and making it affect other lots, where
Mhm.
all you guys have control right now is this lot.
Yes, that is the problem. It would restrict other lots.
Okay.
We can't
If we-
have comment from the audience because it's between us and the staff, so.
So yes, theoretically, if a church goes there, it could, on its face, it would restrict alcoholic beverages from being able to be served within 300 feet of it unless those people come in and get approval from us, which they have to anyways. Anyone that serves beer, wine, or liquor is required to get a city license for that anyways. So they get our approval one way, they'd have to get our approval one way or the other, whether they're within 300 feet or not.
Okay.
So it's not a final thing that nobody can have an alcohol business or anything within 300 feet, because there are options later that when they have to come in for approval for their lot or business, that they'd have to get approval anyways, and you would be able to override that at that time.
That's what it looks like. It looks
Right.
like the state code allows a municipality to override this restriction
Mhm.
through our approval process.
Are restaurants in,
They are permitted outright in industrial zones.
Are there any other consequences for approving or denying this, that in terms that it would restrict other people of doing things on their property?
Not that I'm aware of, but I have not done any research as far as restrictions of businesses surrounding churches. I don't know if James has done any research of that on his side, but I have not.
I have not. The property to the north of the subdivision is 778 feet north of the northern boundary of the subject property.
And then what are the other distances
Well,
with the other ones?
the other distances is, well, there's the rest, lots 4, 5, and 6, are each 100 feet wide adjacent to the west of this block. The block 2, which is to the north, which has 5 lots in it. The property immediately across the Radcliffe right-of-way, which is an unplatted parcel. And then to the south is residential properties that are platted and built out.
And that said, was it 300 feet from the entrance to entrance?
From the
Or-
property boundary to the entrance.
Okay, so from the other person's property boundary to the entrance of the church? Or from the
Measured
property?
in a straight line to the nearest entrance to the licensed premises.
Well, that's nice and clear.
I have always interpreted that from the church's property line to the door of the licensed premise.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
I see.
that,
see.
To the
I was
church's
gonna say, that
front
makes sense.
door, to the bar's front door.
Cause you have, yeah,
The church.
That's why it's confusing.
Yeah.
All right.
okay.
Are there any other questions?
No.
All right. Is there a motion that somebody would like to make?
I would like to make a motion or recommendation of approval for the conditional use permit for Calvary of Rathdrum, based on them meeting all 8 criteria.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right.
Ken,
Aye.
Nick,
Yes.
Nina,
Aye.
Cindy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you all so much for coming. All right. We will now move on to consideration of the Bokel Ranch annexation. And let's see here. All right. I will now open the public hearing. Following the public hearing, the commission will consider all relevant evidence and legal criteria stated in the Rathdrum City Code and give its recommendation. So, are there any conflicts of interest, site visits, ex parte actions, or bias that any of you need to put on the record?
No.
No.
No. All right. Is there any member of the audience who wishes to challenge the participation of any commissioner based on the appearance of fairness grounds? All righty, seeing none. So this hearing shall proceed as follows. Staff will introduce the application with a brief overview. The applicant will present their application. Staff will present their report. The members of the public will have opportunity to testify, starting with those in favor, then neutral, then those opposed. If you'd like to speak, you must sign in, including your address on one of the public hearing comment sheets, and provide the sheet to me or staff. When your name is called, please approach the microphone and state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. And comments should be addressed to the commission, be relevant to the information in the record and the applicable legal criteria that the commission will be considering for this application, which I stated earlier, and should not be personally derogatory or repetitive. Public comment will not be accepted out of order from seated members of the public or after the hearing is closed. So please make sure you speak during your time provided if so motivated. Following the public testimony, the applicant will have a chance for rebuttal. Does anybody in the audience have any questions about these rules? All right, seeing none, we will now have staff introduce the application.
Good evening. The next action before us tonight is the Baker Ranch 2025 annexation application. It is an application for annexation of approximately 30 acres of real property into the city of Rathdrum. That property is located east of Wright Street, west of Silverado, and adjacent to and north of Baker Road. The requested zoning is R3 with the condition that only single-family residences be built on the annexed properties. Speaking for the applicant is Steve Circle of Tri-State Consulting Engineers.
Tri-State Consulting.
All right.
Good evening, Ms. Chairman and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. For the record, my name is Steve Circle, and I'm with Tri-State Consulting Engineers. I'm here on behalf of my clients, Ms. Susan Moore and her husband, Eric Moore, for this annexation. I'd like to talk a little bit about history with the family. So Susan and her husband reside on the property, and they began their residence there in 2003. She is the daughter of the Becker family that originally homesteaded in this area on this property, along with about approximately 150 acres in the 1950s. Susan's brother owns 20 acres to the west of that. And we're gonna go through the difference in the acreages when James does his presentation. Susan and David grew up here with their parents, and in the younger years they graduated from Lakeland School District. And this is the last remaining portions of property that they have. David resides, as I stated, west of the Moore property, and he's been here for approximately 35 years. Over the years, the parents, as I stated, have sold portions of the property of their holdings for sustainability and living purposes. Susan retired a few years ago from a 35-year career working in the transportation department for the Lakeland School District. The time has come for these native residences of the city to downsize their property holdings. Regarding the proposal, they propose to, as James stated, annexing approximately 30 acres of their property holdings. This is kind of unique because it's completely surrounded by city boundaries. And if I point your attention to the map, you got 2 squares that are white, and those are landlocked. Well, I shouldn't say landlocked, but they're infill. Now, infill is kind of a unique term because it's really best suited for annexation to the adjacent city boundaries, because it's already served with utilities and services. So we're formally requesting for a zoning classification of R3, which is consistent with the surrounding properties with self-restricting density condition that we will not allow for any multifamily housing. We want the ability to provide for workforce housing, which is directly related to size of the lots. We feel R3 zoning will allow for the density to provide for affordable building envelopes. In your P&Z packet, your city engineer, Mr. Kevin Jump, has evaluated our proposed annexation on a city service capacity standpoint as it relates to roadways, site access, domestic water, and sanitary sewer. Mr. Jump mentions that there is adequate capacity to support the annexation with access onto Bagel Road. Furthermore, existing city water and sewer mains are in Bagel and have adequate capacity to support the proposed annexation and any future development. In the event of a proposed development application, it is recognized that a traffic study would be required as a submitted condition. And furthermore, in your P&Z packet, Mr. Planning Director James Gideus, I think I said it right, prepared a complete staff report with a city code analysis and comprehensive plan analysis as it relates to the proposed annexation of the subject property to the city in the city boundaries. Several citations of the city code and goal evaluations against the comprehensive plan with respect to our proposed property are included within. We have reviewed these and have no objections to the information provided and are in full agreement with the findings, facts, and recommendations. James will be presenting these in more detail, so I don't want to steal his thunder here, but I do want to mention that the proposed portion that is in the packet to be deeded to the city of Rathdrum as a condition of annexation is acceptable to my clients. Now, that particular portion of land that I'm referring to is an existing 425-foot wide Bonneville Power easement, and with an addition to a 100-foot wide Avista Utilities easement on the southeast corner of the property holdings. And my clients have read through it, and we have no problem or objections to doing that and having that as a condition of approval. So in summary, the Moore and the Becker family, whom have been a part of the city since the 50s, are requesting for your recommendation for annexation approval into the city council towards city council. So I stand for any questions you might have.
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Right, so staff will now present their report.
All right. As I previously mentioned, this is for the Bacon Ranch 2025 annexation. The applicant, Steve Circulaire of Tri-State Consulting Engineers, and the owner being Susan Moore of 6999 West Bacon Road here in Rathdrum, which is on the subject property. The subject property is located adjacent to R3 zoning, which is the requested zoning designations at the northeast and north boundaries, with a small area of R1 zoning adjacent to the northwest. You can see them on that map as that little light yellow band extending from the corner of the subject property. And it's got R2 zoning adjacent to the west. On the adopted future land use map, the property is designated as medium density residential. What that is defined as is medium density residential encompasses all types of residential uses between 4 and 12 net dwelling units per acre, and supports land uses such as nursing care facilities, parks, schools, and public facilities. Densities may vary as appropriate to location, street, and infrastructure capacities, planned development patterns, and compatibility with existing development. These areas are subject to single and multi-family design standards. Got a little note on that last bit because, again, the applicant has requested a conditional zoning on the property, restricting it to single-family zoning only. However, back to my note, R3 zoning is a listed enabling district of the MDR, according to the comp plan. It is classified as medium density residential and appropriate for this location as set forth on the future land use map. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a request to annex 2 parcels totaling approximately 30 acres in size into the city of Rathdrum with the conditioned zoning of R3. A request for annexation is actually 2 different things. A request for annexation, which comes with a request for zoning. So we have 2 sets of criteria that come into play. At the top of this, I've already read it twice tonight, is Title 67, Chapter 35. We have to base our decision in the criteria that are set forth in code. So these 2 sets of criteria are the criteria that we have to base our decision in tonight. 1, the criteria for annexation. So first, A, it has to have a common boundary with the city limits. B has five parts. The proposed annexation complies with all of the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan as follows, meaning these 5 goals and policies of the comprehensive plan, not every single one of them. So number 1, the city should grow into a well-defined area. 2, growth in new areas should be allowed when suitable vacant land is no longer available to accommodate the growth, or when a specific use is proposed which is beneficial to the citizens of Rathdrum. 3, growth should only be allowed when public utility services are sufficient to accommodate the new growth. 4, the physical development of the city should reflect the best interests and needs of the city. And 5, that it is ensured that adequate information and analysis is available upon which to base land use decisions. Okay, that's for the annexation. Now, when we talk about the zoning, the criteria for the zoning is the same criteria as establishing the zone as if by zone change, right? So for R3, criteria, high density residential areas should be located according to these criteria. There's only 2. 1, in areas where traffic would not have a detrimental effect on the carrying capacity of collector and arterial streets. And 2, in locations where municipal water and sewer, sorry, I typed that wrong, are provided. So, let's see, that's property information. Sorry, my slideshow seems to be jumping around back and forth. That's the location of the property. This is an explanation of why the map doesn't look like the maps in my staff report. A boundary line adjustment was done on the property. If you look at the map on the left, it shows 3 properties separated by vertical property lines. And the the brother and sister exchanged some land there, and they widened the bottom of that central middle parcel, resulting in the proposed annexation area shown on the right. If that makes sense to you. Okay, here's, this is an annexation request, not a development request. This application is to annex 2 parcels onto the property with R3 zoning. Their restriction that they're asking for is that single-family residences only be built on the property. If approved, what that means is no further houses can be built on this property at all until it is further subdivided. Police, fire, EMS, the school district, all already serve the property and the 2 residents that occupy it. Existing traffic from and or generated by these 2 residents already access Bakel Road via shared driveway. There are no new additional impacts to the city of Rathdrum or to any of our taxing agencies involved by the annexation of this property. Those impacts would come at future development, the subdivision of the property, but not now. This only brings 2 homes into the city of Rathdrum. Okay, so requirements of annexation. The city engineer set forth, and you can see it on the map on the left, a requirement for the dedication of right-of-way so that we have the full width of Bakel Road for the entire length of between the highway and Meyer Road. We have also set a condition of annexation that the portion of the property which is encumbered by that overhead power easement be dedicated to the city for pathway and future land application use. We have acquired all of the easement area which goes through Thayer Farms from Lancaster Road up to south of Golden Spike. So in the future, a pathway system will be built in there. And we often get questions about sewer capacity. Well, at the moment, we discharge our sewer to the city of Post Falls. They treat it and discharge it into the river. At some magical date in the future, their ability to discharge into the river will reach a limit. They can't discharge any more after that amount. At that point, they will start to pump the treated water back to the city of Rathdrum, and we have to have land designated and set aside to spread that water on. This is intended to be one of those properties, as is the land in Thayer Farms. The city would like to acquire the entire easement area all the way through the city. That way we can have an interconnected pathway system that connects Greens Ferry to Meyer Road. Conditions of annexation. A, the concerned property has to have a common boundary with city limits. On the left, you can see the property, and the blue is city limits, entirely encompassed by the city of Rathdrum. On the right, we have B1, that the city should grow within a well-defined area. That well-defined area is our area of city impact, right? Which includes all lands that we want to or can feasibly grow into within a 2-year period. As these properties are within the city, they are the best option for annexation. We don't eat up the prairie, we don't expand services into an area where they're not already at. They're focused. Infill property, as far as planning goes, is prime ground. So B2, growth in new areas should be allowed when suitable vacant land is no longer available, or when specific use is proposed which is beneficial to the citizens of Rathdrum. Both the dedication of the easement area and the right-of-way on Bakel Road are benefits to the city of Rathdrum in the long term. B3, growth should only be allowed when public utility services are sufficient to accommodate the new growth. Again, there are 2 homes on these properties. For the purposes of an annexation application, yes, city services are available to provide water and sewer to 2 homes which exist on the property. If the property goes up for subdivision, that will be brought up again and will have to be addressed at that time. B4, the physical development of the city should reflect the best interests and needs of the city. So here are 3 citations from the comprehensive plan regarding infill development. Land use goal 1, objective C, we need to maintain regulatory standards that encourage infill development consistent with expressed land values. Goal 2, objective A, encourage development within cities, within currently established areas of the community and more intense use of developed land. This is developed land. It has houses on it, but it's 30 acres with 2 homes. More intense use of that developed land is in the best keeping of the city. 2G housing, goal 5, objective A, encourage infill and redevelopment of existing lots. I think our comprehensive plan hits it right on the nose. Infill properties are great things to focus development on. B5, ensure adequate information and analysis is available upon which to base your land use decisions. I have provided you both a code analysis matrix and a comprehensive plan analysis matrix in order to provide you information to make a reasoned decision regarding this land use action. Okay, and that was annexation. Now we're on to the requested zoning. Like I said, it has 2 requirements. 1, in areas where traffic would not have a detrimental effect on the carrying capacity of collector and arterial streets. And 2, in locations where municipal water and sewer facilities are provided. As to number 1, at the time of this request for annexation and zoning, again, there are 2 existing parcels that are accessed via a shared driveway from Bakel Road. As the existing traffic already uses the city streets, the annexation of these parcels has 0 impact on the carrying capacity of collectors and our arterial streets in the city, because that traffic is already being carried by those streets. Okay, and 2, at the time of that application, municipal water and sewer are available to the properties being located within Wright Street to the west, Bakel to the south, and at the termination of Silverado to the east. And as the city engineer has stated, we do have the capacity to provide service to the 2 existing homes that are on the property subject to this land use action. And there, for good measure, are our criteria and admonition to cap it all off. I have nothing else for you. You have my staff reports and all of my attachments and all the comments provided for this land use action.
Are there any questions?
Nope.
Right?
Did we set it already?
No.
Oh, sorry, then it's their turn.
Yeah, it's their
That's
turn.
what I was getting at.
Alrighty, so we will now have, the public will have the opportunity to testify, and we'll start with those in favor. And then we will go to those that are neutral and then those that are opposed. So is there anybody that would like to testify that is in favor of this annexation? All right, seeing none, is there anybody that would like to testify that is neutral? All right, seeing none, we now have Anita Dubsik, if you would like to testify. And of course, state your name and address.
Good evening, Commissioners. Anita Dubsik, 8698 West Hood Street, Rathdrum. I looked at the comprehensive plan analysis that was included. Everything you just told me, my mind is being blown up, but I just wanted to go through a couple things on here that I had. So I looked at I took this plan analysis and then actually looked at our comp plan, which I realize is under review and it's a living document, whatever. So one of the things, so for population goal 1, the comprehensive plan says moderate and stable rate of long-range population growth with orderly development. With all of the other development that's going, the possible reconsideration of the oh my gosh, the one that's the
Armstead Hayden Homes.
yes, that one. Up the street with what's going on with Thayer Farms, with all that, it doesn't look to me like we're trying to do moderate, stable growth. It looks like we've got the pedal to the metal. Goal 2 says, let's see. Goal 2 says to maintain and enhance the quality of life of the population living within and directly adjacent to the community. I'd like to have somebody address what the enhancements are going to be. Once this property is brought in, what the enhancements are going to be. I read the application, and at this point, they are requesting between 100 and 120 homes on the 30 acres. So I'd like to know what the enhancement to the quality of life is. For land use, goal B, it's the number one thing, and I can remember this from the last planning and zoning, that people in this community wanted was to maintain the rural character and small town feel of Rathdrum. And that is fast going away with all of the stuff that's going around us. Yes, we're trying to do something on Main Street, but that specific thing, the number one thing that people wanted, is fast going away. It's followed by day-to-day commercial needs. There's other commercial across the street from Bagel, so perhaps that can be a consideration also. And believe me, I know how important property rights are, and especially here in North Idaho, that's huge. We understand that. But they've got the commercial, and then the presence of a clean and abundant aquifer. And you guys just sent out the water report of what's going on with our aquifer, and it states the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer contains a large amount of high quality water, but over time and through negligence may be susceptible to contamination or overuse. There's no description of what is considered overuse, when it might possibly happen. Is that something that you guys need to kind of look at and say, okay, we're adding, 120 homes there, 500 homes there. Anyway, that was another thing that I wanted to say.
And you're gonna have to wrap
Let's
it up
see.
because you hit 3
Oh,
minutes. So
okay,
you can
well,
conclude,
all
if you
right.
have a closing statement or wanna conclude.
Well, I guess my closing statement would be, so just two things. I know that there's gonna be a workshop on the comprehensive plan, and I mentioned this at the city council meeting, and I know people don't come to those, and I'm so sorry about that, because that is our best chance to kind of help drive keeping this community, small town feel.
Okay, thank you, Anita. All right, so we have Randy, is it Salos? Sales, that's right. I'm so sorry.
It's all right, you got it mostly right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm Randy Sales, I live at 5635 West Quail Ridge Street in Rathdrum. I'll start with my summary. I really agree with what Anita said. Our pedal's through the metal. We're basically growing beyond leaps and bounds.
Can you speak a little louder?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks. So I didn't prepare a thing for this. There's a very confusing thing about the way this is put in online. It seems like you're never supposed to be able to speak, and many people have commented they could make it clear when you can speak and when you can't. So I didn't have the time to prepare for this. Many residents are working against the Arnstad home. It's a rezoning that's supposed to give them ability to build 500 homes. This is another 120. It's not as many as that, but it's still a substantial number of homes, and they're small homes, relatively speaking. So we're going to continue to move towards turning Rathdrum from a small town into a bedroom community. We're already pretty far there. One of the things that's come up in the discussion about Arnstad and Hayden Homes is just the sheer number of homes we already have approved and either planned or under construction. Forget all of this stuff we're talking about tonight or about Arnstad. We have a tremendous number of houses already being built. And one realtor that came to these other meetings said, we don't need any more houses. This is a realtor. We don't need any more houses. We are already becoming overbuilt. Some of us have requested a building moratorium until the city and the community could actually become a little more aligned with what growth means and how it should be done. I spoke to an HOA member in another part of Hayden recently, and he said basically they have stipulations now that anybody who comes in and builds has to do all of the prep in terms of traffic control and everything before they build a first house. And so if that is something like, and I'm not sure I'm right on that, but the idea is that if builders were required to do everything they said they're going to do before they build a single house, it would probably change the public's attitude a little bit, because we'd see infrastructure being expanded and things being taken care of before it's too late to do something about it. So, given that the public sentiment is so strongly against our rapid growth, I mean, anybody you speak to and the number of people coming to these meetings compared to the past is a precedent in itself. I would hope that we could put this annexation on hold until the city and the public can get to a better place in terms of understanding and agreement, how we're gonna grow and how we're gonna stop from becoming just urban sprawl. How much time do I have left?
About 20 seconds.
Okay. The comprehensive plan is a really good opportunity to do that, but right now it's not binding. Basically, after it's done, variations can be done and the public has no recourse on it. So, since we're doing a comprehensive plan right now, if we could possibly make it so that that is binding and it had to be revisited if departures from it are gonna happen, that might become a contract where people could actually trust they know what's gonna happen and they won't get surprises. So, that's it.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else that would like to testify that is opposed to this annexation? Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And state your name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Laura Fuller, 6201 Trestle Street. And I would like to recommend a low-density housing designation for this annexation and reject the applicant's request for medium density. The lot sizes should be in alignment with the surrounding single-family home neighborhood in the area. And in addition, a traffic study should be commissioned, which also takes into consideration any other pending developments near the area. And based on the existing comprehensive plan, a low-density designation makes more sense for the long-term goals of Rathdrum. This type of low-density housing would best match the essential nature and character of the area. And while the future land use map that James brought up may accommodate medium density, I believe this is not in the best interest of for growth or beneficial for the residents of Rathdrum. I recommend changing the future land use map designation for this property to be low density. Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody else that would like to testify that is opposed to this annexation? Thanks.
Hi, good evening. My name is Chelsea Morris, 7443 West Robin Road. Because we know it will follow the annexation with a new subdivision, I suggest this be tabled to a later time when we know the outcome of a much larger proposed development going in extremely close proximity. Have the impact studies been done in consideration of each other. This could possibly add well over 1,200 vehicles to that direct area and a strain on our infrastructure. I ask that we wait until we know the outcome of other developments that are further along in the approval process, as I don't believe this is responsible growth. Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody else that would like to testify that is opposed to this annexation? All right.
I'm gonna give you Laura's because she forgot to give it to you.
No
so
worries.
Yeah, mine as well.
Hello, my name is Stacy O'Connell. I live at 20908 North Highway 41. I oppose this annexation, which James is trying to say it's like an annexation, but it really is housing. We have so much going on right now with housing. They do a traffic study and they come back saying everything's great. We'll just add a roundabout and it'll be wonderful. I live on Highway 41. My driveway is on Highway 41. It is so hard for me to get out. You add another lane, what's that gonna do? Just make it even more difficult. Coming out of Weimar, you can't even make a left out to go on to make a left at the signal. You have to go down past the library. Where do you think all these people are gonna be going? They're coming down here. We have so many houses going up.
We don't even know what the traffic's going to be because we have too many going up right now. I don't know if any of you were at the meeting the second time that it was voted down the rezone of the Hayden Aristad. There was 60 people here against that development. 27 people spoke against that development. This community is not wanting more houses to be putting in. We need to come together and, like everybody's saying, just put a halt here and come together and figure out what's the best action to keep this a small town, not make it such a big town. It's getting just really out of control. Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else that would like to testify that is opposed to this annexation? All right,
I don't have this filled out yet.
it's okay. Please state your name and address.
I am Joni Kellner, and I live at 6954 West Blacktail Avenue, or off Nagel. And I just agree with what everybody said. I can't drive on Hayden or Hutter anymore because of the traffic accidents. The traffic is terrible on Myers, and it's just really hard for people to continually have to fight all the traffic and the concerns of water, schools, police. So
All right, thank you.
that's fine.
Oh, thank you so much. All right, is there anybody else that would like to testify that is opposed to this annexation? All right, seeing none, the applicant will now have a chance for rebuttal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First I want to thank the public to come and give testimony. It's always great to see that and then see action. I come with a lot of experience. I moved my family here in 2002. I've been practicing engineering in the private sector for over 31 years. I've been in this area for 23. I've been running my own company since 2006. I also held a planning and zoning commissioner hat at Cooney County for 8.5 years. So I understand what you guys are looking at, what you're going through, but I really understand planning. And so when I stated earlier, and I know James did as well, when you've got blocks of land that's totally surrounded in your city, the best thing to do is what James did state, is that's the easiest and best use of that land is to be able to bring it in. Now, I can't really testify here or give comment on, I think a lot of the comments that were here tonight really talked on the density and the traffic, but we're not here for that tonight. We're here to put a color on the map and be called the City of Rathdrum. And that testimony and that presentation will be if we move forward with the proposed plan. If we were to do a traffic study right now, how would we put it together? We haven't asked for any number of lots because we can't, because we don't know what we're going to do yet. But I understand, I really do understand the concerns, and those can be addressed, certainly. But through your code and city procedures, we can't do that until we have a color on the map and we can say we're in the city of Rathdrum. So at this point, we're here just to bring in 2 parcels of land, approximately 30 acres, with 2 existing lots. And that's what I do want to make one mention that we did get a comment letter from the school district. In fact, we met with the school district because one of the main concerns that we had when we first started thinking about this is, well, what kind of impact if we do a development to the schools? And I was the engineer when we did Bakel Ranch or Bakel Estates, which is further to the west of us. And that school or that development, provided some income for the school district to help offset that impact. When I did up in Spirit Lake, which is still Lakeland School District, we provided a client that I represented at that time, we provided the land for the junior high and the high school. I'm all about managed growth, and that's really what is a lot of your guys' jobs and tasks. What makes sense, because, just to say no is really, it's difficult to do. So with that, I'd ask any questions you may have of me. Thank you
You all
very
have any
much.
questions?
No.
Okay. All right, so the public hearing is now closed. All right. I have a question. So has there been a traffic study done recently or
No, because
anything?
there's two houses which already
Yeah.
exist, which already access Baker Road.
Right,
The
okay.
annexation of itself doesn't cause any impact.
Right, right.
Future development will, and the engineer's memo stated that at the submission of any plat or subdivision for the property, a traffic study will be required
Right.
for that development.
If they
If it
just,
happens.
if they chose to develop the
Yes.
property in that
This
way.
property could be, in theory, annexed into the city and remain undeveloped for 31 years, just like the last property we saw.
Mm-hmm.
Those studies belong to the development phase of the property, not really annexation, which isn't development.
And they've met all the criteria of the law, the
Yes,
city code, and that's
in my opinion.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly, but, and that's what we're to determine, is if they have met the criteria
To
for
your
annexation
satisfaction,
and
yes.
for R3 zoning. And of course, the law has to apply equally to everybody. It can't be just, oh, you want this one for this one and you don't want it for this one. It has to apply equally to anybody that comes through here, that the same law applies fairly to everybody.
Yes.
So, does anybody have any questions for staff? Or any discussion, or?
I think that pretty well spells it out,
Mhm.
his answer.
Right. Is there a motion that somebody would like to make?
Is there one motion we make, or is there two? One motion being the annex,
Oh,
One for the annexation and the zoning, you can do it all in one.
all in one?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion for recommended approval of the annexation with the conditional R3 zoning.
that it's single family home?
Yes.
Right. Is there a second?
I second it.
Alrighty.
Ken,
No.
Nick,
Yes.
Nina,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
thank
Okay,
you.
motion passes. Thank you all for coming. We will now go to the, let me get my paper here. Consider updates to the Rathdrum Comprehensive Plan.
Do you want me to put it on my computer, or are you gonna pull it up on yours? We have a short presentation, and then we'll go through, the updates that were presented in the packet. Okay. Go to the next slide. Alright, so we kinda just wanna give a little background as to some of the updates that we're gonna be sharing with you, kinda where we're coming from with them. So some of the general concerns about the future Rathdrum that we have heard from the public, the council, from you guys, include limiting growth or creating more sustainable growth, ensuring adequate city infrastructure, which includes water, sewer, and streets, ensuring emergency services like fire, police, and also schools can serve new residential and commercial developments, ensuring schools in other districts such as the fire district are receiving the land they need for facility expansion, encouraging commercial development over residential, ensuring that residential development provides a variety of lot sizes and not just all small lots, and then requiring additional green spaces. Would you guys say that that's kind of sums up a lot of the concerns that you've heard over the last little while as far as where we're going with the comp plan?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Trying to be accurate here. So we also have some concerns related specifically to our current comp plan. So our comp plan, as you guys may remember or know, is a requirement that we have to have under Idaho code. The last one that we adopted was in 2021. We go through a review every 5 years on that because typically it follows our area of impact updates, which those are required to be updated every 5 years. So we do the comp plan kind of with that because they are kind of together as far as what we are planning for growth and for what's coming into the city. And so we are due for an update, obviously, and there are several concerns with our current comp plan since it's been 5 years. Some of the concerns that we've heard, there's a disconnect between when the comp plan was adopted in 2021 and where our current code is. So there's some stuff in the current comp plan that are outdated that we need to remove, we need to update, we need to make it fit in with our current code. We also need to take out some of the items that are no longer relevant or have been met since the plan's adoption, and those are some of the objectives that are in the comp plan that were set. James, we've met those through creating code updates, so some of those objectives are ready to be removed or replaced with new objectives. And then the big update will be in the future land use map, which I refer to as the FLUM, and the land use section within the comp plan itself that kind of describes the land use map, the future land use map. So we want to ensure that it matches our area of impact. This means it will plan for growth only where we truly believe we may grow in the next 5 years. This will limit growth to only those areas that we actually believe will be annexed into the city for the next 5 years. So we're not planning for massive growth, we're planning for just the growth that we believe might come into the city in the next 5 years.
Can I hop in here?
Of
real
course,
quick?
yeah, go ahead.
The area of city impact is.
No, the area of impact for the cities now.
Sorry, they
They changed the name of it.
It is basically this magical line around the city. Not that the city will annex all of it and grow into in the next 5 years, but includes properties that are potentially annexable, right?
They're likely to potentially be annexed.
Right, it
in
doesn't
those
mean we're
areas.
gonna just absorb the entire donut. What it's
Yeah.
saying is properties within that boundary line of that map are eligible or could be eligible within the next 5 years.
Yeah, and that's a map that's adopted at the county level. You guys probably know this. You guys have seen our newest area of impact. We adopted it last fall with you guys in December with the council. It's something that's adopted by the county for all of the cities so that they can understand where cities are expected to potentially grow, so that they can match their future planning to our planning, and so that everything can kind of work together through time. So we want to make sure our comp plan is kind of following our area of impact so that we're only looking at what we might annex in the next 5 years. We're not over planning for things outside of that, and that kind of limits what we're expecting to grow to that area of impact area. We also want to ensure our future land use map matches and includes references to our current Rathdrum City Code. Since we've updated the code, we want to include those correct references. We want to make sure it includes sound planning principles, such as commercial development along arterial streets surrounded by a small area of higher density residential, and then finally transitioning to a more lower density residential development. We want to remove confusing or irrelevant units of measurement and verbiage that have kind of been used in different ways that don't really make sense anymore because it's part of the old plan and we've moved past some of those things that we'll kind of talk about. And then we are limiting higher density residential growth by only allowing it in these limited areas between commercial and lower density residential areas, because we don't want a ton of high density residential growth. We want it where it should be per planning principles, but not spread out all over the place. We want it in a controlled area. So that's kind of what our future land use map shows in the updated one that we're working on. It's just a small area of higher density between commercial and lower density.
I have one more comment about the comprehensive plan. We have heard the frustration where citizens are saying, well, the comprehensive plan isn't binding. Unfortunately, it's not binding due to state law. It is not regulatory.
By itself.
It's a vision plan
It's a guidance
that says, but the city council doesn't have to listen to it, right? If it says MDR there and they want commercial there, they can approve it because it's non-regulatory. And they have the ability, basically, just to ignore it. Even when it's used as a criteria in land use actions, Supreme Court of the State of Idaho case law provides that it can only be used as a generality, that you generally conform to the goals and policies, but individual goals and policies cannot be used as veto items to strike down a land use action. It is purely a guidance document, and whether we love it or hate it, we're stuck with it in that fashion for the time.
But we do want to make it the best guidance document we can possibly have, because we do want to try to use it to shape the future of Rathdrum, and we want to make sure we're incorporating all the concerns that people are having about future growth. So I'm going to kind of go through this. I know this is really small writing, so I will read it. to kind of how we're trying to address those concerns that I just listed. So obviously one, we're doing this comp plan update. This includes a fairly significant update to the future land use map and land use sections due to concerns with these area and general concerns related to growth, types of growth, connecting it to the current city code, removing confusing terms, etc. The second thing we're doing is a code update. We do code updates every year, but this time we're really trying to focus on these concerns that we've been hearing to try and ensure we're incorporating those concerns into our code update. So we want to update the annexation code. This links to the comprehensive plan update because the comp plan and future land use map are usually used the most when it comes to annexation decisions. So we're actually going to talk a little bit about the proposed code updates to the annexation code tonight. We're also going to propose updates to all of our zoning designations, mostly in the residential code designations, to include additional requirements that relate to emergency services, school district, and in matching the future land use map. We're also considering phasing out the R3 zoning designation, which is the smaller lots, so that we will no longer receive requests for entire subdivisions of smaller lots. Smaller lots will only be allowed as part of the MR and MRA zoning designations, where developers will be required to provide a variety of lot sizes, including larger lots, if they want to have some of these smaller lots. So we want to phase out these subdivisions of all small lots and ensure that we're providing either larger lots or a variety where smaller lots are only a portion of subdivisions that include also a portion of larger lots, so that we're having a more variety given, which is one of the objectives and goals in our comp plan, is to ensure that there's a variety of lot sizes.
This is part of our continuing effort to kind of revamp our zoning designations. We discontinued the R1 zoning designation and replaced it with a zoning designation that has a 12,000 square foot minimum lot size. We created a R1B that has a 20,000 square foot minimum lot size. We have discontinued the R2 zoning district, well, that was already discontinued, the R2S, which had a minimum lot size of 7,500, and replaced it with an R2A, which has a minimum lot size of 8,500. Right? We are, I believe, we are going to discontinue the R2D as well, getting rid entirely of those 7,500 square foot lots, and discontinue the R3, getting rid of the 6,000 square foot lots. Our intention is then to move duplexes as a conditional use permit in certain zones. So
we have a bit more control over where those end up being. They don't just go randomly throughout entire subdivisions.
Or we don't have entire subdivisions which are created entirely of duplexes and triplexes.
Which we don't want.
Right. So we're listening to the requests all the time for increased lot sizes, and we were doing that across the board in our residential zoning designations.
So that code update with those updates isn't part of this presentation necessarily tonight, or this workshop tonight. We're trying to inform you guys of where we're going with trying to incorporate these concerns. And then the third thing we're gonna do, we're also gonna update the subdivision codes, or Title 12. We wanna increase the green space requirements, especially for larger subdivisions, as a percentage of total space. So the larger the subdivision, the more green space will be required. We probably won't include the required tracks, so they'll have to incorporate that green space inside the subdivision somewhere, whether it's one big park, several pocket parks, additional like medians, whatever it is. We want to have a bit more green space incorporated into our larger subdivision. So we haven't quite figured out how we're gonna present that to you guys as a change, but that's something we're working on right now to increase the green space requirements for that.
And the reason for what Emily is talking about is, for a 10-acre subdivision, 5% is a whole lot more of the whole than 5% of a much, kind of, it appears more, has a greater impact.
Yeah.
Proportionally there.
We're trying to be proportional, yes. Okay, so for tonight, so that kind of hits the basis of where we were coming from with some of these changes, so you guys kind of can understand what we're trying to accomplish. Tonight we have the proposed updated comp plan and the future land use map. We're going to go through some of those proposed updates, specifically those related to the future land use map and the land use section. But if you guys have questions to the other proposed updates, please ask those. We'll probably we're going to do some workshops at council, and we're going to have some town halls and stuff, and then we'll probably end up bringing it back to you guys in a workshop later on after we get some more feedback from others, so that we can bring some more feedback. So I don't necessarily see us going through every little proposed change to what was included in your guys' packet tonight, but if you have questions about all that, please ask. We're mostly gonna go through the land use stuff tonight.
So I have a question.
Yeah,
So
of
tonight,
course.
are we just doing, is it just a workshop?
Yeah, it's
or,
just a workshop.
Or are we voting on anything
No votes
tonight?
tonight, just
Okay,
workshop. Just feedback from you guys, feedback from the public. That's
Okay.
it tonight. Yep.
thank you.
No votes. And then, we also include a special public comment period for this workshop tonight, because we want the public to be able to provide comments specifically for the comp plan, and even be able to ask staff and P&Z some questions if they'd like to. Typically, we don't do questions during comment periods, but we did this specific comment period to allow for some back and forth, so that we can answer questions if they have any. And then, like I said, we are also gonna present to you guys our proposed annexation ordinance, just so you can see how it incorporates some of these concerns and how it works with these comp plan updates that we're working on. And so no votes on any of that tonight, it's just so you guys can kind of see where we're headed with some of these updates. So James, do you wanna do the comp plan stuff first and then we'll go to the ordinance? Or do you wanna do ordinance and then comp plan? How would you like to do
Let's do
that?
comp plan.
Okay.
Where is it? Where, here?
Well, if you go onto it's on the website, if
Oh,
you
yeah,
wanna
let's
do the
go there.
website. So we posted the proposed changes on the website a few weeks ago. We're already having it open for public comments. We haven't received any public comments on it, but it's open. As we make more updates to it, as we receive feedback and do more updates, new drafts will be put up on the website for people to see. And so it'll just be a running page open to the public for comment anytime until we finally get a new one adopted. So do you want to do, yeah. And if you go to page 66, then that's your land use stuff. Okay, so James can kind of go through his updates to the land use stuff. You might want to increase the size of that just a little bit so people can see it.
So,
There's clearly a lot of red. We're trying to make some good changes, so he can kind of go through those changes with you guys. If you have questions, let us know.
okay, so the first part that we're talking about amending here is the land use designations as set forth in the comprehensive plan. Now, the first one of those is public, which says this designation reflects lands that are public or otherwise owned by a government agency from use of parks, government buildings, education facilities, and infrastructure. Our code says that those things can be put in any zoning designation anywhere to the benefit of the city. So having a separate designation on the future land use map for that is kind of redundant. Basically, if the future land use map just had like the schools and the parks identified as P, well, yeah, but that's not planning, that's just marking what it already is. So those uses are distributed out amongst the other stuff. The second one shown here is established residential, and this is kind of, it says established residential is a traditional Rathwood neighborhood where single-family homes dominate and densities are low, typically ranging from 3 to 4 net units per acre. I gotta find this, hang on. You sent it to me. What did I do with the email?
We are finding that including net units per acre is a confusing unit of measurement, because if you just take total acreage over proposed subdivision and divide it, you get one number. But if you actually look at our subdivisions in town and you take into account the green space, the public infrastructure, everything else, that pretty much every one of our subdivisions from R3, R2, and R1, no matter the size of the lot, are between 3 and 4 net units. So it doesn't really do much for us as far as a unit of measurement between our different types of zoning designations to use a net units per acre measurement.
So you can see this is
So
all
this
of
is
our.
a density map.
That's a
Yeah.
density map of all of our major subdivisions right there in the center of town. Independent of zoning, this calculates dwelling units per acre for the platted subdivision. None of these are above 4, no matter what they're zoning, whether R2, R2S, R3. Now this map does not show the trailer court. It does not show Golden Spike or Diamond Spike. Those are PUDs with much, much higher densities than are typical, and we didn't want them to clutter up the map, so we didn't include them. So, well, hold on, it is, interesting to note that the only area of town that, goes above 4 is, the area immediately adjacent to, gosh, I zoomed way out, that's sorry about that. Is down, near Majestic Park, where the densities are 5 and 6, per acre down there. Let me get down there and.
Which is
And-
probably attributable because there's only 2 small streets that go through. It's a very small little section of
Right.
subdivision, and so that is probably why it ended up being so high. But that's because you can kind of see from this map that using the density as a unit of measurement doesn't really tell you a lot or help you plan well for future growth, because every single subdivision, no matter what kind of zoning designation it has, all fall within that net density per acre. So that's why we were removing it from the comp plan, is kind of the moral of the story here.
We look at the existing future land use map, and it doesn't really matter if it says medium density residential, low density residential, or established residential. They're all the same, between 3 and 4 units per acre.
Yeah.
So we don't find that a very useful metric to be using to define land use designations.
And that's why you'll see it removed in here.
Right, so we're removing that. So we would be changing the existing verbiage to that established residential is a traditional Rathdrum neighborhood where single-family homes dominate, accessory dwelling units as well as 2 and 3 family dwellings are allowed where permitted by zoning and code. That goes back to where we're talking about. Right now, accessory dwelling units are only allowed in single-family residential zoning, and if we moved duplexes and triplexes to a conditional use, then that would be set in the land use table, and that would be established by zone as well. Okay, so established residential, multifamily developments, apartments should only be permitted where they act as a buffer between commercial and industrial uses or activities such as highways or railroads and lower density residential uses. If that makes sense. We want commercial development along the highway frontages. Behind that commercial development would be an appropriate location for multifamily development. Behind that would be medium density residential, and behind that, low density residential, right? So we're fading from commercial or industrial activities to the lowest residential use the farther away you get from that.
Does that make sense? Okay.
So we're also changing implementing districts because we're adding new zones and phasing out existing zones from use in here. So we're changing the implementing districts of that. Low density residential, so yeah, we're still playing with that, removing those density calculations from the metric because they don't work very well. Implementing zones for the low density would be our R1A, which is our 10,000 or 12,000 square foot lots. R1B would be our 20,000 square foot lots, and then our 2 MR zones, MR and MRA. Okay, medium density residential, basically that's just being changed as well, removing the density metric and changing the implementing zone districts to R2A, R2D, R3, R3M, MR, and MRA. You'll notice that in all of our zoning districts, we have that MR in there, which is supposed to be able to provide the density or lack of density needed by the mix of lot sizes created in the subdivision in that zone. It kind of straddles the line. Again, that's why you only use that metric. Where it is. When we say medium density residential, we mean medium density residential comparative to this lower density, which has fewer units. It's not a precise.
Can you remind me what the metric is that you use?
Well, right now, we're gonna, in our comp plan, it has that. What we're gonna use is by designation, right? 10,000 square foot minimum lot size with a maximum square footage of 20,000 square foot. That is low density, right? That's our R1.
So square footage.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're basing it on our zone districts rather than this kind of typical net units per acre
Right.
metric that
Yeah.
doesn't really make sense because it doesn't seem to matter based on our density map what size the square footage of lots are. They all fall within that 3 to 4 net acres, so it doesn't make any sense to use that as a measurement for low and medium density. It makes more sense to use the square footage so that we can clearly identify this is what we're considering low density, this is what we're considering medium density based on the square footage of the lots.
Right, relative to each other.
Relative
This
to
is
each other,
medium
yeah.
relative to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
You get more, so that's kind of
Yeah.
where we're
So we can actually differentiate between the two rather than them all being net the same.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Right. High density residential, we put it in there,
We don't have any.
we don't have any high density residential, and we don't intend on making any or allowing the code to provide for it. That's not where we're going. We have heard, small town feel. And, you know, most people, I mean, they get up in arms about subdivisions, but we get crazy when we're putting apartments in next door. And I think the city has spoken very clearly, like, not really wanting to develop in
Big
that
apartment
direction.
things, yeah. And that's why we put it in here, because we wanna make it clear that our plan for the future does not include high density. So that's the only reason why it's in here, to ensure that, because if we didn't have it in there, then a future person might be like, oh, well, then maybe they did plan for it, they just didn't include it. But we wanted to specifically include it and say, no, we have no plans for this right now. So that's clear.
Well, and I'm one of my biggest struggles is when, because like when you look at Idaho code and it talks about the purpose of planning and zoning, is one of the things is for the city to be able to provide adequate goods and services. So that's part of why you plan, so that your development doesn't outrun your ability to provide those services. And so that's where I know that when we make decisions, it is absolutely based on the code. It's not based on, if it's not in the code, you don't get to use it as the criteria. And so that's where I think maybe we could have, I know I'm going to be researching a lot. I'm going to be reading the codes and reading a lot of different case law and things like that, because I think that maybe we do need to have a couple more things in the code to be able, like if you do have a red flag of something in the community that's saying, hey, we can't, we're really struggling to provide this service. Obviously water is a huge one. Like if all of a sudden the watering municipality was like, well, if you build 200 homes, there's gonna be some serious issues on our aquifer because we're really low, or whatever the details could be. Obviously that's already in the code, but there might be some other services that if it comes about that, you know, you get letters, the city, and they're like saying we're having some serious issues here. We're never allowed to use any of those things as a legal reason to say no. So it's like if I guess it's just saying like having some abilities to have a legal reason to say no when we truly are having issues with providing adequate service.
And that's kind of our plan. We're working on adding in additional criteria into all of our different things, all of our zoning districts, to try to address some of these concerns about school districts, about fire and police.
Right.
And some of those.
I'm trying to craft the code so that it allows consideration of certain of those things, so that it gives an avenue to find a solution to the agency's complaint without giving the agency veto power over the city's land use decision.
I get it. I know it's a very delicate balance there.
If there's a problem with water, what can we do to solve it so that they can get their application through? Not, oh, they said it's bad, so we have to veto it because the guys up the street said no.
And when people apply for these different zone changes, annexations, plats, things like that, as we have already discussed previously, the law has to apply equally to everybody across the board. So the only time, to be honest, I would really want to legally say no is if for some reason there's an inability to provide those adequate goods and services. Exactly, because it's not like you get to pick and choose. Well, we're going to say yes to this one and say to no this one. Are they following the code? But if there is a serious issue going on where there's an issue with providing goods and services, those would be the times when I would want to be able to legally say no, just because it's kind of like gauging what services do we have, and then with the growth that's happening, so that we're having responsible growth. with
That's
what
where
we
we're
have.
coming from with
We got
all
more
these
things
updates.
coming.
Yeah, so then it sounds like we're on the right
We're
track
on that
there.
route, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's, yes, so
Exactly.
just kind of keep going through.
So
some-
sorry
Right.
for
So-
taking
But
too
you're
much
right,
time.
Nina, exactly.
The next land use designation in the existing comprehensive plan is this residential, rural, and ag transition. I feel that it is a great big nothing. It basically says development can happen out here in the county, and if you have questions, you should talk to the county. And it's not really a plan. It just says that stuff can happen according to somebody else's plan. That doesn't do a lot of good for planning in mind. So we've removed that designation entirely from the comprehensive plan and the future land use map, because that's where all of these are. And then next, neighborhood nodes and commercial nodes. The proposed future land use map and my proposal for the comprehensive plan in conjunction with it is to expand commercial uses along the major arterials. Currently that would be Bakel, Nagel, Lancaster, Wyoming, and in the other direction, Meyer, 41, and Greensferry in the future. So with a grid created of arterials running north, south, and east, west, I no longer need a designation where we can put commercial activities at intersections, because that's part of the plan now. Right, we have commercial, light industrial, C1, C2I development along the major arterials, and then behind them, we have our residential stuff. So not on the major frontages, but set back from it.
Does that make sense? We're doing a running commercial development plans instead of just random nodes at intersections. We want it straddling the entire arterials to encourage more commercial growth. Does that make sense? How we're doing that? Okay.
So for general commercial, downtown commercial, highway commercial, mixed use, those land use designations are basically just getting a little update. We're removing any density references, updating the enabling zones because we have changed those a little bit. And that's kind of it. These existing references to Highway 41 South and
That was for a
light
future,
industrial.
that was for the highway commercial
Yeah.
overlay that we added, right?
Basically, that was the call to create the highway commercial overlay district. So once we created it, we no longer needed that designation in the comprehensive plan. Light industrial, well, the future land use map, we've combined the light industrial and the general industrial into one industrial designation, where either or of those designations can be placed. In the code, the heavy industrial zone can't be placed adjacent to a residential zone. So basically, we go back to residential zones, heavy apartments if we want them, high density housing, and then behind that we can go to regular industrial and then to heavy industrial. They have to have that separation, right?
Yep.
So
I think
that's about it for
you
the
wanna go
comp
to your
plan.
phlegm to kind of
Yeah.
show that again? I think you guys have already seen the future land use map once, the update that we're trying to work
Right.
on.
So hold on, I'm gonna
That's
go to this
the
one
future
first.
one that we, yeah.
Okay, so let me back up.
So this is the current one.
Okay, which shows this rural ag transition around the outside. General industrial, we kind of combined that with the light industrial on the existing map. Low density residential, medium density residential. We can see how they have these interspersed. That in the southeast corner, I guess, was intended to put a medium density residential zone adjacent on either side of the railroad tracks in that location, which is now Brookshire South. Everything north of that zone has been constructed, everything south of it has not. But that is the existing one, and here is our draft clarification of that. That's a little bit simpler. Okay, so we have low density residential all around the outside of the boundary of this. We don't want anything less than 20,000 square foot out there. Our R1B zone allows for,
Some ag uses
and lots up to 54,500 square feet out in that zone. It can be created in 10-acre blocks. So then we see we have our low density residential on the outside, we move into that light green, that's our medium density residential tied into the city, right? If we're gonna have growth, that's where we want it. There is no prohibition about putting a low density residential subdivision in an MDR. I mean, it can be lower than the minimum required thing, right? We can make that happen. However, those great big ag lots wouldn't be allowed in there because we want them pushed out.
So this is just a projected land use map, like what you are thinking is likely to be, but that doesn't prohibit somebody from requesting a different zone.
No.
Well, right, and like the code states right up that if you're within 300 feet of the land use designation boundary, it's close enough for you to be counted as that land use designation.
And we have opportunity for a future land use map amendment, which you guys have seen before, so if someone comes in and wants something different than what the future land use map allows, they can also ask for an amendment of the future land use map where they have to meet even more criteria in order to get that.
But is the land use map a criteria for changing, for zoning, or that it complies with the land use map?
Right now, it only is a criteria for our industrial and commercial zones, but we are adding it to all of our residential zones.
That's not quite true because you can create an illegal spot zone by spot zoning in somewhere that's not designated by the comprehensive plan.
Because my concern is when you're projecting that all of that will be low density housing, like what if somebody wanted to do something that was commercial or industrial or something like that would be a variety of from just low density housing, or like what if they wanted to do something different?
In that case, one, we would have to have our city limits all the way out there to that zone. Two, in that case, because they're asking for a zoning district that is not an enabling zone for that land use designation, they would have to ask for a comprehensive plan map amendment, the future land use map amendment. Because you're not supposed to rezone something that doesn't meet the comprehensive plan in its use, but you can ask for a rezone and a comprehensive future land use map amendment at the same time. So you amend the map and meet the requirements of it simultaneously.
So they wouldn't have to have like two separate
Simultaneous actions.
And don't they have to pay a fee to do that?
Well, to me.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, is like if they have to do multiple actions in order to change it, that can get mighty expensive for them.
Idaho code does not allow you to just go in the middle of let's say one of the LDR areas and just randomly pick a parcel and decide to rezone that commercial. Because you are then putting a burden on the surrounding uses that is not part of our comprehensive plan. It's called an illegal spot zone. So we have to kind of watch out for that. There are times when we're able to kind of work with that a little bit, but you have to be kind of careful that you're not creating an illegal spot zone by just randomly plucking out a parcel in the middle of what you've already kind of set as one type of use and creating a whole new use there.
So if I understand correctly, the previous map, it kind of was unknown, right? Like there were areas that they were like, well, we don't really know.
Right, which isn't plain.
Yeah, exactly. But I know that the things that I've heard from just in the community, and I walk precincts and knock on doors, and obviously as what we're addressing it tonight is that there's the growth is a huge issue for people. And so when you start to see that it's projected that all of that's going to be housing,
that's not what this says.
Is that, and maybe that's why we're having the conversation.
The type of development that should be allowed in that area.
Right.
It does not mean, again, it doesn't even mean that those properties are going to be in the city in the next 5 years. Right. It is saying that the plan for development for this 5-year period. Right, and then council can, do weird things that we didn't intend, and then in 5 years we have to adjust for those decisions. Right. But right now, in the next 5 years, no, I don't expect commercial development outside the city. One, commercial development away from those arterials generates sprawl. Now we have to extend services to get to residential densities to get past them. That's why commercial development is concentrated with commercial development.
So like you put kind of like with like to keep it so
Yes.
it's when
And
it,
this isn't James's opinion, this is how planning best practices work. You do your commercial, because it creates a lot of strain on resources, on
Right.
infrastructure closer, and then your higher density residential, because that, again, for the residential use creates a higher strain on resources, and then you go out to lower density residential, so that your resources, the strain on them is then spread out, so you're not creating that
Right.
sprawl of resources, you're concentrating them,
Right,
and you're
and-
able to provide them.
If we use these arterials as our basic for commercial industrial development, you know, in theory, you would never be more than half a mile from commercial development.
well, and I really appreciate that we can have the conversation
Yeah.
because you're looking at, you know, it's like you hear all sides of the story to go, hey, this is the reasons why you would do it this way, and then you'll hear also these are the concerns over here where they're like, just building is exploding for houses. We need more commercial. We need more industrial. We need more of this in here too. So it's like when you take all those concerns and put it together, and then you put out the logistics of the facts and the evidence and the details, even with building and construction and all the details that go into that. It's really nice to be able to have these workshops, to be able to discuss all of those issues and lay them out on the table for understanding, because I think there are a lot of misunderstandings. I know there's things that I have misunderstood, and it is really beneficial to be able to do this, to talk about those things.
Yeah.
Also, this map, the boundaries of the color in this map correspond to the city's newly adopted
Area of impact.
area of impact of the city.
So we're limited on our annexation to the areas identified here, meaning that we're not planning, nor do we want to grow outside of these areas in the next 5 years.
And wasn't there a situation where the various cities and the county did they get together to discuss kind
Yeah,
of
we're
like
still
boundaries?
discussing that.
Right.
The county has to adopt everyone's area of impact by the end of this year.
Right.
So they're still kind of working on that. But we've already adopted the area of impact for the city, and now the county just has to adopt it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But anyway, so this is kind of our initial plan for the future land use map and why we've gotten there. So kind of, again, trying to bring in the concerns of the public. Do you wanna go back to our proposed annexation ordinance? That kinda goes along with this. It's in the PowerPoint. So again, go to the next slide. As James was saying, you know, we have to still work within the framework of what state code requires of us. We have to work within that framework of has to be express criteria, kind of like you were saying, you know, has to be objective, can't be arbitrarily applied. So even as we're adding criteria to these different ordinances, we still have to think about that kind of framework that the state code is requiring of us for these ordinances. So with that in mind, I'm gonna go to the next slide. This is our proposed update for the annexation. Can you make it bigger? And I can kind of go through it. So right now, our annexation ordinance has an A and a B, and James actually went through it in the annexation tonight. It's pretty, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of open for interpretation. This makes it a lot more clear what the requirements are, our updates, and everything that's underlined is something that we're trying to add in. So as you can see, we've added in a lot of additional requirements to annexation, as you can see from all the underlined stuff. So I'll go through that. So basically the first one is that the subject property has a common boundary line with the city limits. That's already a requirement. And is within a well-defined area as defined in the adopted area of impact for the city. So we want to tie it to that area of impact because that is our plan for the next 5 years. And we want any annexation that comes in here to be within that plan for the next 5 years. We don't want to be going crazy by growing outside of that. We want to keep the growth contained. We've heard growth is a concern. To encourage sustainable growth, we're only going to remain within those boundaries that have been approved as the area of impact boundaries. So we're not going crazy with growth. We've also added B, emergency services of police and fire are available to the subject property. We want to make sure that we are able to provide those services to those properties as they're coming in. So that is a criteria we're proposing. We've heard that that is a concern. The next one is the applications shall include provisions for the donation and or the construction of critical public infrastructure as determined by the relevant city staff, which may include but is not limited to the following. So as properties come in for annexation, we require them to build quite a bit of infrastructure. Sometimes we require donations, sometimes we try to get them to donate properties for other jurisdictions. So that's gonna now be a requirement upon annexation, that they have to have this stuff ready to go and willing to do at annexation as a requirement of annexation. So they could be required to build wells, lift stations, water sewer mains, or additional lines, additional rights of way, parks, buffer areas, property designated for purposes of land application, anything that may be set forth in our adopted capital improvement plans or master plans, and donation as land as may be requested by the fire district or school district for facility expansion as shown in those districts' capital improvement plans or long-range facility plans. So we want that as a requirement upon annexation, that these properties have to be willing to do these things at the time of annexation in order to be annexed. Another thing we're adding is that public utility services can be provided to the subject property as determined by the city engineer. We wanna make sure utilities can be provided, and the city engineer looks at that and makes sure that they can be, so that we're making adequate water decisions, adequate sewer decisions. We're providing adequate utilities to these properties. And then that the proposed annexation generally comports to the overall relevant goals of the comprehensive plan as determined by the city planner. So this kind of allows James to look at our goals of the comprehensive plan as it is a guideline, and ensures that as the annexation comes in, it is generally comporting with the guideline of our comprehensive plan and the goals and objectives that we've put for ourselves there. We've also added this because we understand the need to limit growth, and while at the same time encourage commercial development over residential development. So this is something that we've been trying to make sure we have in here. The subject property requested to be annexed shall be limited to no more than 80 acres of commercial and or industrial uses and no more than 40 acres of residential use requested. This would mean that any annexation that comes in here, if they're requesting a residential use, they can only be 40 acres, no bigger than that. 100, like these big old annexations that have come in here in the past of 100 plus acres would not be allowed. Only 40 acres of residential would be allowed at annexation for residential use. In that same vein, we have 80 acres for commercial or industrial use as the limit there, so that we're still limiting massive amounts of annexation of commercial growth, but we're saying that we want to encourage that kind of growth over residential by saying we will take more acreage of commercial growth over any residential growth. Go ahead, I'm done.
Okay, best planning practices. We're looking for orderly, sustainable growth at 3 to 4% a year. Since 2020, the city of Rathdrum has been operating at 8 or 9, right? We have a lot of growth, and it's hard to manage it. These things that we're talking about is staff's attempt to stall it, not stop it, but slow it down so that we can handle it in manageable chunks.
And we're ensuring that our infrastructure is getting the due course it needs and the stuff it needs to be built by these developers and not by us. Do you guys have any questions? I think we're kind of done with our workshop presentation at this point, so if you guys have questions or if you want to open it up for public, however you'd like to do that.
Anyone have any questions?
I know it's a lot. We've been working
It's
on
alright.
this a lot recently to try to.
I was there for the 2021
Right.
annual workshop.
Damn it.
I was the only one who showed up at the workshop.
You're the only one this time too, I'm
Okay, so then if there's no more questions, we can open it up for public comment, and it'll
Yeah.
be like 3 minutes per person.
Yes, if they're allowed to ask questions to staff or to you guys if they want.
Okay. Alrighty then, would anybody like to offer some public comment at this time?
It's not a public hearing, so you don't even have to sign in.
No, it's just open comment time about the comp plan.
Yeah, if you're doing commercial development, is that per commercial type? So let's say it's 80 acres and you brought in,
Yeah,
know,
it would
some
be
sort of-
80 acres combined C1. Well, I don't know.
it
because
was
the
light,
intention there
some
was-
light industrial and then maybe, something a little different.
It's just a commercial or industrial use, 80 acres. That's what you're.
So yeah, C1, C2, or I.
Yeah.
would
Or
be
HI.
Per developer, per type.
per action.
Yeah,
Yeah.
per action.
Per action,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's fair, that's good to know.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine, that's fine. The presentation tonight, will that be made available to the public? Is it already?
It's already on the website.
It's already on there.
You put the presentation on the website? This one?
I will,
Okay.
right away.
Okay.
We will put this on the website, sir, yes. Sorry, I just made this like an hour before this
Yeah, it's
meeting,
fine.
so.
So my next question is, on the website, like I was having a really hard time finding the draft comprehensive plan. Like I had to
Okay.
like search it specifically and find it. It wasn't under like the comprehensive plans drop down.
I will put a link under that
Yeah.
page to the draft.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you for letting us know, because we'll fix that.
And you mentioned how like there was no comments. You guys have had weeks. You know, it's been up for a few weeks and stuff. It could be possibly related to some of that. And
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then one like another feedback would be, you know, maybe there needs to be some sort of, you know, PR campaign, because I think the people that are here to listen to it tonight, it passes around by word of mouth, and like how are you getting it out there to the public to like even know that this is going on right now? Like most of the public doesn't seem to know that it's going on.
This was kind of our first workshop that we've had a good chunk of stuff to present, so you're exactly right that we plan to do a lot more PR type stuff to get out there and have a town hall or two, and then have more workshops at council and stuff too, so we will do more of that.
Okay.
And we will definitely beat this worth today.
Yeah, I'm sure. Thanks, James. I guess regarding the plan, I guess my first big topic that I want to ask about is like, what is the impact of the aquifer? Like I've read the Aquifer Atlas report they put out, and you know, this is my first time I've ever really made that a concern of my own in my own you know city. I mean, I've been a part of. I lived in New York for a number of years. I was part of a $4 billion bridge project that 2 counties on either side had massive PR campaigns, public input on every single little thing, big developments along waterfronts, things like that. And I'm not saying this is like even anywhere close to that comparison, right? This is small town stuff. But I just like outside of this community, like some of us have an understanding of like maybe how that should go down and you know, be approached. And so I think we're, you know, a lot of the comments have been about, you know, better communication. How can we get out there? How can we have input to these things? So just think on that. But with the aquifer, because sorry, back to that. Like, do we understand what those limitations and impacts are, right?
Do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, like
Okay.
go ahead.
So what happens when it comes to water is, as we bring properties into the city, properties typically have a water right associated with them. Are you familiar with water rights? So they are rights given by the state for a property to use a specific amount of water that the state has deemed appropriate for that property. Therefore, they can pull that amount of water out of the aquifer and use it. When properties come into the city, those water rights are given to the city and added to our cumulative water rights that then we use to pull water from the aquifer to give to all of the citizens to fill our water needs. So the water that we're pulling for the aquifer is not just willy-nilly. We have water rights that we are allowed to pull only a certain amount of water from the aquifer per our rights as given to us by the property owners, as given to them by the state. So we are limited to what those rights allow us to pull from, and right now we haven't utilized all those rights, as we have quite a few, quite a bit of rights. So there are limits to that set. It's not just, we don't just pull willy-nilly. We do look at that as permits come in to build houses. That's when we look and see, hey, do we have enough water to accommodate this new house? Yes, we do. No, we don't. If we do, here's your permit. If we don't, we can't give you a permit. Like, that's kind of how we do it. So it's hard at some of these land use actions that you guys see for us to be like, because today we might have water, but if they choose to wait 5 years to build on that property, we might not have water then, but we can only answer today's question if we have water today, which typically, for right now, we do, because we have a bunch of water rights.
Yeah. So consider maybe that the plan might need to expand on water services, a little more expansion of like explaining all that. I'm not saying you need to like get into like, explaining all the rights and stuff, but maybe you might need to touch on it, because right now it's like 2 sentences under chapter 11, makes it sound all hunky-dory, we've got great clean water, it's there.
Well,
and I'm sure there's way more than that to it than that.
When I get the report from the city engineer on any land use action where the requirement is our water and sewer available to the property, the caveat when he says yes is today. It's available and we have the capacity today to provide service to that property.
Yep.
Again, like Emily said, if you come back in 3 years and make the same application on the same property, you might get a different answer.
Right.
Right.
So So also in there, you have projected growth of population from 2019, and I'm sure you guys recognize that it's like outdated, it's under projected,
all of
we've
those
had
need to
massive
get
growth, right?
updated.
Last
That's
5,
why
6
the
years,
plan has
yeah.
to be redone every 5 years,
Mhm.
because it's out of date by the time you have to redo it.
Yeah.
Those numbers don't mean a whole lot anymore.
So on the sewer system, you made a good point about how, you know, we're pumping to Post Falls, right? And it's a magical time in the future, they're gonna hit capacity and then have to send it back to us, like, I guess as the public wants to know, you know, from my standpoint, I would ask, like, what threshold do you know that that's gonna happen? When are we projecting that to happen from a certain year standpoint? Like, oh, we think at current projection it's gonna be 2030, right? And so we have a plan in the next 5 years to address that? Or, you know, are those wheels even in motion? Do we understand what that mitigation next step looks like?
I think we're so far out from that they don't even have a projected date. They are
Yeah.
nowhere near their allocation in the Spokane River.
Okay.
So if we had a projected date, I would tell you, but I don't even think there is one just because we're so far away from that.
Okay, well, that's good enough. I mean, it's.
Because there'd be so much planning involved if that water ended up having to come back here as land application. We'd have to build all of the irrigation systems. Yeah, we do. They build the irrigation to here, and then we have to build it out to our properties. So
And
there would be a
Hayden's
lot of
already
planning
doing that.
and capitalization funding that would be involved with that. And we haven't even, begun
Right on our
to start any of that because Post Falls still has quite a bit of allocation in the river.
It might be good to establish some minimum criteria, like expectations with that, or when it would need to be in place by. And if we're nowhere near it, then that's great, but at least the plan addresses it.
Yeah.
You know,
that'd be good
and
just
like,
to address it.
should Rathdrum at some point build their own sewer facility, and like when would that be necessary, you know what I mean?
So on that, and I've asked the city engineer to actually prepare something so that we can give it to the public on this that explains it a lot better than I'm going to do right now. We are in a weird spot because we are over an aquifer. So if we were to build a sewer treatment facility here, we would have to invest millions and millions of dollars in a facility that would not just be the facility, but the staffing, and then we also, since we wouldn't have a river to put it in, we'd have to have the land available to apply it to, which we do not have. So we'd have to acquire a bunch of land for land application of everything, plus the facility, plus the staff, and plus doing everything to protect the aquifer since we're over the aquifer, plus expansion as we grow. Like, it's huge investment. And like I said, I've asked the city engineer to put that in a memo so that we can give it to you guys, because he would explain it much better than I can.
Sounds good.
Some of the concerns that I've heard from people is, one is low water pressure as well as low water levels. And so I always tell them, I go, if you have a concern, and even some people that work in the water industry, it's like, send a letter to the city. Like, have you all received any letters from anybody with any concerns?
Occasionally we get a complaint about pressure. Pressure doesn't have anything to do with capacity, it has to do with the size of the system, that sometimes use over here causes drawdown over here, and that's why there are pumps at the major lift stations to pressurize that to compensate for that.
And sometimes we adjust the pressure manually because sometimes we have to adjust, and I was just actually talking to one of our utility people about this a couple days ago. He has to be able to adjust some of the chlorination and other things to make sure our water is the right level. So he sometimes has to adjust the pressure in order to ensure that the chlorination is going in at the correct rate so that it's going out correctly depending on the water usage at the time of day. And then you have to coordinate between how many wells we have? Seven wells. And so it kind of, I don't know, it gets spread out amongst the wells as well. And yes, our pumps, there's a couple outdated pumps as well that we're trying to upgrade. So that kind of all
So when
feeds into it.
we're recommending or not recommending to build properties, that is part of the equation and am I understanding correctly to go, okay, do we have the capacity to give
question. Yep.
that, like,
And that's what
and
this
is it
engineers-
measuring
yep.
like our aquifer? Is it low? Do we have adequate water?
It's not necessarily the aquifer, it's our water rights to
Our
pull
water
from
rights
the aquifer.
to pull
Because
from
that's
the
what we have the right to pull.
Right, because I've had people ask questions like, do we have enough water for all this construction, for all these people?
And that has come up in council, talking about water reservoirs, above ground water reservoirs.
Storage, yeah.
Storage. They're storage, they don't have anything to do with our capacity.
But do you all get reports on the water levels and?
Well, I'm sure the city
They are
engineer
read,
does.
every
I do
morning the
not.
water wells are read and they have a spreadsheet.
And then they factor,
It's
like the
amazing.
city engineer will put that
Yes.
in his
Yep.
recommendations
Yep.
if there's a problem there.
So how does a single citizen get their water level back to where, or pressure back to where it was 2 years ago?
Well, unfortunately, there's no mandate that we provide you water at a specific pressure that makes you happy. Right,
Well, we have to be within a criteria.
We've got a
Yeah.
zone that we have to be
Yeah.
in, but if that,
We have to
you
be-
like your showers more, well, you should go get a pressure tank and have it installed in your house, because as long as we're in the zone, I mean, we aim to make people happy, but it doesn't work for everybody. We got 12,000 people here and some are just angry all the time, not you.
And then
I was just
most of the
wondering,
time
my lawn's
balance, yeah.
drying, I mean,
It
it's
is a balance.
dying.
We've had complaints recently of too much pressure, and then we get complaints of
Yeah,
not enough
and-
pressure.
yeah, I know.
And we try to balance that, and it
Yeah.
comes down to use and things like
And
that.
everybody
so-
waters their yards in the
Same
morning.
Yeah.
They're trying to take a shower and so, summertime, and it varies. I've had a couple this, summer already, but, we go test it if it's in the certain criteria of the PSI. By state law, this is where we need to be. And indeed, if it were like way out or what have you, I mean, I've been here 19 years, we've never been way out, so, with that being said, I mean, not to say it's not going to, but, they can check.
I was just curious.
Yeah, there are.
Sorry, yeah, we,
Yeah,
you guys
sorry,
we can
sorry,
go back
sorry.
to his comments.
I'm just gonna build off of this conversation, and sorry for beating a dead horse maybe on aquifer tonight, but it's good productive discussion.
Yeah, it is. I'm writing notes right now for my lunch.
So aside from just like the water rights, which maybe that's the kind of the key thing that you guys look at, okay? When I was reading the Atlas report, like they said that people use more water than gets returned to the aquifer, so there's a net loss. And I'm just wondering what the long-term effects are of that, because they say that pumping out of the aquifer reduces the water levels in the Spokane River, and there's a downstream effect to that. And it sounds more like maybe it's not a Rathdrum problem, but maybe it's a regional problem. That is anyone looking at this, collectively?
Yes.
And are there requirements there, or maybe there needs to be committees on it. I don't know, but
Oh, and I'll have
thoughts?
to find it for you. The last report I read said that the Rathdrum Aquifer was the only aquifer in the state that was actually recharging naturally and gaining water, even with the use on the prairie. So I'm not sure where you saw that.
It's 23 Atlas report. One of the things I was concerning of that is that it raised a lot of issues, but didn't seem to answer them, right? And so here I am. I got questions. All right, so.
But I think we could be better in the comp plan about answering some of these water and sewer questions for sure, or at least providing information about where we get our answers from as they come. Yeah.
And do developments, they have their own pump stations installed in some developments?
That would be a requirement added to the subdivision or development at the time of application by the city engineer. He's gonna review their engineering drawings, and the water and sewer master plans have our basins where things need to go, so if they need to add those things, then he will require them at that time.
Or if they have to build additional lines in order to create a looped system to increase pressure in other areas with a loop, then he requires that as well.
Westwood Pines had to put in a lift station.
Yeah, we've had lift stations put in for sewer as well. But there are some of the developments on the fringes of the city that aren't looped yet. They just have the infrastructure built to them. And as we grow to infill around them, Berkshire being one of them, then this system ends up getting looped and the pressure stabilizes throughout. That's kind of how that works. Did you have any other questions, sir, or comments?
Sorry, man, we keep just jumping off the train.
I had a question about it came up tonight and it came up in the previous meeting with Hayden Homes about the developers have mentioned, they look at the impact of the school district, and they like to say that one said that they self-imposed fees to contribute to the school for maintenance and staffing costs, and then tonight, similar comment about previous development. I'm just wondering, when the city hears that, what is your basis for saying whether it's an appropriate or adequate amount? Are there long-term analysis that says what it should be and if that's even adequate?
So the city does not look at any amount that they voluntarily impose to pay on themselves to pay school districts. The state has decided that school districts do not get to have impact fees. And so impact fees are the only way that cities get involved with collection on behalf of other jurisdictions. So we collect for the EMS district, we collect for fire, and then we collect 3 impact fees for the city, for our police, our parks, and our streets. But the school district doesn't have an impact fee that we can collect for. So if the developer chooses to self-impose a fee that they've agreed to with the school, that's a private agreement that we cannot get involved with under state law.
For real, contact your legislature.
Yeah.
In 1996, when the state created the list of public facilities that can be funded by impact fees, they left schools off of it.
And schools have been trying for the last 30 years to get on that, and they haven't been successful. And we would love to be able to collect an impact fee for schools, truly, we would, but to help pay for new facilities for them, but we can't.
Why do you think that is?
I think that there's probably, this is pure speculation, sir.
Ernest Olpin?
I think that there are some strong lobbyist groups down in Boise that lobby against additional impact fees, potentially building lobbyist groups or something along those lines, and they have managed so far to win over any lobbyist group that the schools might have. Hopefully someday, it'll be an impact fee that we can collect.
What's your plan for additional, like more of a comprehensive traffic study that I think it got mentioned tonight? It was a good comment about, you know, maybe one development just looking at their local impact, but like comprehensive impact for this part of this.
So we have a traffic master plan that we update about every 5 years, and we just did an update on it in 2022 and adopted it, and it shows where our weak intersections are, and from that we create a capital improvement plan with all of our projects that we need to address with our high priority, our medium priority, and our low priority. And then as we collect impact fees, we use from development, we use those to address our priority projects as they come up. So, and we do that every 5 years. So we do a full comprehensive basic traffic study of the entire city in our major intersections every 5 years.
Yeah. Components of the comprehensive plan include the Parks Master Plan, the Water and Sewer Master Plans,
and the Traffic Master Plan.
And the Traffic Master Plan. So all of those are updated every 5 years. It not may be on the same 5 year, maybe it's staggered a little bit, but all of those are getting updated every 5 years as required by law.
And we usually have a workshop on this, traffic.
On those master plans and those capital improvement plans, and then we update the impact fees as well. So as the traffic master plan gets updated and the capital improvement plan gets updated with the associate costs of those improvements, then we update our impact fees, usually increasing our impact fees, and so that developers are required to pay more to fund those projects.
Growth really does fund growth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shouldn't those traffic studies be done on a more frequent basis than every 5 years with all the new developments
Well,
that are popping
the
up?
master traffic plan is done every 5 years, but development incurs specific traffic impact studies for the development that supplement the traffic master plan, if that makes sense.
Who does the study? Is it the developer?
They have to hire typically like an engineering firm.
They use their own person to do it.
They hire an engineering firm, and then our engineer goes through the study and ensures that it has been done correctly and unbiasedly. And if there are issues, he sends it back to them and makes them correct it or go do it again. And he has done that.
It just seems impossible that we have the same roads, main roads, and all these places being built, that we can handle that capacity. I don't see how
But
anybody can
some
see that
some
as
of them aren't the cities.
Yeah, some of them are.
They're
Yeah,
not. They're
Some of
them are
the
the county.
state. So they're an interstate. So
Yeah,
the city
Highway
has
41 isn't us.
yeah
Or
right
Meyer.
right out here.
Meyer.
Wire isn't us. Oh, Meyer.
Meyer is.
Yeah.
Meyer is a portion of it is us.
Yeah.
Portion.
But-
Small
But it's
portion.
more like
But
80.
we're approving
Yeah.
development on
Yeah.
Meyer though.
So
Well,
any development on Meyer is actually being required to redo and widen Meyer that is adjacent to Meyer. So
Right,
like
now you're
Berkshire,
taking away people's property, which I'll probably lose some of my property.
That's their
No, it's
property
their
that
property.
gets taken away.
their property. They have to give a portion of their property. So like Berkshire or Hollis Woods or whatever the one is down there on Meyer, they have to give a portion of that subdivision to widen Meyer, and they are required hard to fix and widen Meyer going through that, or by that subdivision.
In the public hearing for the annexation tonight, they're required to donate property for Bagel Road as a condition of annexation. It's
Yep.
similar to that. If we don't have wide enough road, they submit a subdivision plan, we're going to make them widen that road and give us the right of way to do it as a condition of their development.
Yep. So we don't take the property from others, we make them give it to us. Yeah. Laura, I think you had your hand up first.
May I come up to the front?
Sure.
Yeah. Is that okay, Nina, if she comes up? Yeah.
I just have a few questions. I just first wanted to ask if this meeting's recorded.
Yes.
Okay, and it's gonna be on the
YouTube.
city's YouTube?
Yep.
Okay. And then I wanted to ask if the public will be able to give their input on the future land use map.
Absolutely, yep. You can submit a comment, and we'll also end up having a public hearing, or probably 2 public hearings, where you'll be able to give additional public testimony during those hearings.
It is on the websites, the public hearings websites, very last, the comprehensive plan update, it's on there.
And you
It's
can
got the
submit
link right
comments
there
now.
to make comments to it.
Can you be like, I specifically think this parcel should be
Designate as something else?
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
Can't guarantee that every request or opinion is
Obviously.
going to end up as a change on the map, but yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's what we want your guys' speak, we wanna hear what you guys have to
Tell
say.
me what you want and why, the why is important.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay. And then James, James, you stated that, you wanted the large agricultural lots to be pushed out.
I
That
don't-
was what you said.
pushed out to the fringes of the city. They'll, tight inside, they encourage sprawl. And that is part of why we limited those to, I believe it's a 10-acre block of those great big parcels. Because we don't want subdivisions of half-acre lots. They're huge. It's not normal densities. Yes, the idea is that low-density stuff is farther from the city center, more of a pastoral setting, so to speak.
Okay. I guess I was just thinking of those large agricultural lots. I think we should be supporting the farmers to be able to keep that land agricultural instead of trying to push them out.
Oh,
If
it can.
we can't, well, I'm confused by that, because if they came in and wanted to annex into the
Right.
city, they have to request a zoning. If they're farming it, they can continue to farm it until they subdivide it.
Yes, yes.
but-
I guess I was just confused by your statement about trying to push them out.
No, location wise, we want
Okay.
them not on Main Street, you know, on the fringes of the
Okay.
incorporated city.
And he's
That's
talking
all.
about developed agricultural lots, not currently existing large agricultural lots. Those are not being pushed out. Those can continue to remain as long as they
Yeah,
are there.
the what I was speaking of, I believe it's the
R1B.
R1B zoning designation, which has a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet and 50,000 maximum lot size.
But it allows for ag uses.
And they allow for ag uses, and they also allow for farm stands on them without any additional permitting. So they're designed for kind of hobby farm kind of things.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing is, I understand the comprehensive plan is not legally binding by stated in Idaho law. However, it's obvious that it's also an extremely important document, as evidenced by everything you're talking about right now and everything we've been saying. So I've frequently heard that this comp plan being used as evidence for all kinds of things to argue either way, right? So that tells me it's kind of more like it's being interpreted rather than just followed.
Because it's not regulatory, that is
Right.
100% true.
Right.
Right? This is the vision that we put forth that the city adopts, but we get 2 new councilmen at the end of this year. Their vision may not coincide with the vision that we've set forward, and they influence decisions that don't follow the map or the comprehensive plan. Well, that's fine because it's a guidance document. They're not breaking code, they're just making a decision. And then, like I said, in 5 years when we do this again, we have to kind of make up for those decisions and adjust the plan for whatever happened in the meantime.
Okay. So all the details that you're giving now, it seems that that can be interpreted later to argue that we don't have to follow any of those. We can just,
True, which is why we follow it up with code updates.
Yes, that's why we're
to-
also doing
Okay.
code updates, which we do have to follow.
And those code
Okay.
updates that we're writing are to support the changes in the comprehensive plan. Right, it's two-part, but yeah, we get the vision out there, and then we convince people to adopt code changes that support that vision, and then they're stuck with those code changes because they have to use those.
so do you think that's been a problem, that that wasn't
I think
in
our,
alignment with the plan?
I think our plan is severely outdated, and as we created some code changes, we've tried to keep it the same, and unfortunately, since our plan is out of date, our code changes have not been able to necessarily keep that connected. So we do need to do a full update of all of the above to make sure everything's supporting each other moving forward.
Right. I think in the last 5 years, we have made a bunch of changes that were mandated or requested by the existing comprehensive plan, but they were enabled or adopted in a manner that wasn't necessarily intended.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
We did what they told us we were supposed to do, we just didn't do it how they told us we were supposed to do it, and it caused them to diverge a little bit.
Yeah.
I think
we're
that-
trying to.
Fix the divergence now, and incorporate all the additional concerns that you guys are bringing up. We're trying to do that too.
And then regarding the water, I mean, we understand the capacity's there. I think it's been stated before, you can have all the water. If you don't have the pressure,
Right.
it's not worth much.
That's right.
I think we need to probably talk to the city engineer about how pressure and stuff is determined so that we can include
Right.
some sort of pressure, either planning or something about pressure, because it is a
Because,
concern.
yeah, being able to pump the water and be able to have the pressure to get it anywhere, they're two very different things.
Yeah.
And even though we have this isn't a code requirement, so let's see what we can do to at least get better information out there
Yeah.
from the cities.
We'll work on that.
Well, and also having enough water. So it's like you can have a lot of water rights, but do you have enough water?
Well,
Well,
that's
it's a
where,
pumping capacity, so we have
Okay.
pumping capacity and pressure, I think are the two things that the city has
Right, right.
control over.
and
s-
allotment. So
Yeah,
our
yeah.
allotment exceeds our current pumping capacity, so
Okay.
we have more water to draw, but we're drawing enough or something's going on between pumping
Yeah,
and
can
pressure.
we pump enough,
Right,
can we
right,
pump
right.
at the right pressure to make sure everyone's getting
Where's
what they're supposed to have?
The other thing is, where's the pressure problem? Is it in the shower? Or is it in the faucet?
thing.
Or is it in the
Right.
spigot?
It's
In
everything.
Berkshire, I think we kind of
It's
touched
the
on that.
Sprinklers, it's the
Yeah.
shower, it's the
Yeah.
Some of the
everything.
problems with
tap, it's
with
Yeah.
everything.
Berkshire is that
Okay.
because it's kind of hanging out at the end of the city limits, it has its lines that just run to it, and it's not looped back into the system,
To
which would allow
create
for
a
additional
constant
pressure.
pressure.
So once the developments start kind of coming in around it, whether commercial and residential, whatever, there'll be requirements to build those looped lines, which will help stabilize the pressure of Berkshire.
Okay.
We're
And
on the corner of Nagel and Cassia.
And you have pressure problems? Yeah.
My husband says we do.
You can take out the reducer thing in your shower head to help out the showers. That's what I did.
So
Yeah,
And it helped
shower-
out.
Yeah, but that doesn't water
New
my
shower
lawn.
heads.
pressure problems.
Yeah.
We'll fix
A
that.
low
You can just
flow
pop it out.
pressure.
It's pretty
It
easy.
doesn't help in Brookshire.
No.
We've taken ours out.
Wow.
Nope, doesn't help.
So maybe
Laura,
that.
did you have any other
I have
questions?
just one more question. You stated that since 2020, there is a growth of up to 9%.
Yeah.
Is that per year? Okay.
Yeah.
And we believe mostly the cause of that was several large annexations, Brookshire South, and the development of Thayer Farms North, and Thayer Farms West was residential properties developed all at the same time that were already in the city. So they had those prescriptive rights to develop. So,
It
and
wasn't like we annexed and built within the next, we had all this property, the surplus of property that hadn't been built on, that everyone decided to build on all at once. And what should have happened is you annex a little, you build a little, you annex a little, you build, that's what should be happening.
Right, and
But
that's
we
what
had a bunch of
we
land.
currently believe caused this 9%. And COVID caused a whole bunch of people to move here all at once.
Yeah.
So we had that influx, and then we had all these
All this land
land
that,
available for development, and it all happened all at once. It all developed and it all filled up. So, yeah, we've sustained a 9% growth rate, which is 6% higher than we wanted it to be.
Which is why we're trying to propose a limitation on annexations moving forward, so that we're limiting how many acres we're annexing.
Right, we've heard it several times from members of the public that they'd like a moratorium. I know it doesn't do that, right? The only way we can declare a moratorium and stop building houses is if there's a
Public health emergency. or
public health
something.
emergency.
Yeah, I understand.
And then it's only 6 months, and we have to fix the emergency in that 6 months.
Yeah.
So it just is it's not a viable solution, to development. So that's why we're looking to try to pare it down a little bit through codification.
Okay, and then, my final comment is just, to do a better job informing the public about this.
I agree, we do need to do a better job of that, absolutely.
And I don't know if you can post on it on the Rathdrum Community Facebook page.
We can post on it on our page, on the city's page, and then if someone wants to share it on the
Well,
community
why
Facebook.
can't you share
Because
it
if
on
we
it?
post it on that particular page, we're kind of obligated to post it on every single page ever. We can't treat one person's private page as a venue for distributing information.
okay.
So
But
we-
look for it on ours, and then
The thing is, no one's looking at yours.
Right, but you understand where we're
Well,
going.
then maybe we should, like, we should look at it more often.
We should, but that's the reality. So,
Right.
are you okay with me
you can repost our stuff.
informing people? Because that's what I've been doing.
Oh, yeah.
We wouldn't stop you from informing people more, and if we
Okay.
have posts on our page and you wanna share on that Facebook, totally can do that, absolutely.
Okay.
So,
Please don't say mean things about
Yeah.
me. I'm sensitive. Other than that, go for it.
what you put on there about the meeting tonight was very good, like, that was perfect. You put exactly what was on the agenda out there, and that was fine, and maybe that's why people are coming and participating, and we want participation, so
Okay.
totally fine with that, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Alright.
Nina, we had someone in the audience.
What's the current lot size for R3, even though I know you said you're gonna be getting rid of it?
Okay, the minimum lot size in the R3 zone is 6,000 square foot. But according to the code, for every 1,500 additional square feet, you get an additional dwelling unit. So at 6,000, you can put a single family residence. If at 7,500, you can put a duplex. And at 9,000, you can put a triplex or 3 dwelling units, which is the maximum dwelling units allowed in the zone. That's why they asked tonight for R3 specifically with single family residence. They wanted to ensure that
What
they.
lot size would that constitute?
Well, it doesn't matter if they made the lot
6,000?
sizes minimum is 6, the maximum is 12, they can make lot sizes of any kind, but they only get 1 dwelling unit per lot.
Right, but they can go 6,000.
They can go 6,000, yeah.
Okay.
Which, and we don't really want entire subdivisions of 6,000 anymore, so that's why we're talking about phasing out R3, so that if you want small lots like that, you have to also do big lots and do it in one of the MRs, the mixed residential zones, so that we have a better variation of lots.
Right, so your R3 is being discontinued
We're gonna
in
try and-
favor of a lot size that would be what as a minimum?
No, the MR zone currently requires up to 1/3 of the lots provided be provided at 6,000 to 7,500. Up to 1/3, a minimum of 1/3 at 6 to 75, a minimum of 1/3 at 75 to 9 to 10 to 10, and then up to 1/3 of 10,000 or greater. So it mandates a mix of lot sizes in the MR zone. I believe we are going
Well, I'm
to
talking
change
about
it.
R3 zone.
There is gonna be no more R3, so
Right,
those lot
but-
sizes
but
will
as of
only be
tonight, there
represented in
is.
the
There
MR.
is, yes, the R3 has
You're
not
talking
been,
about changes.
I know,
but
the
as of
R3
tonight,
has not
there
been
is.
phased out yet.
Huh?
The R3 has not been phased out yet,
Correct.
Yeah.
So they can do 6,000.
Yes.
They could.
yes,
Okay.
Sorry.
When you make the change
yes.
and R3 disappears, are they obligated to move up in lot sizes?
No.
Or do they have you by the throat basically saying, you approved me at 6,000, that's what I'm gonna do?
That's exactly what they can do.
Yeah.
They're approved under the code that's in effect at the time that they're approved.
That's submittal.
Yeah,
So they submitted while R3 was in effect, if they get approved for that, then
Any
they're allowed to use
coincidence
that.
that maybe that was the case tonight?
I don't think they knew that we were planning to phase out the R3 at all,
They had no idea.
Okay.
so.
Well, there's sure a lot of lots up for sale around Meyer, all of a sudden all these for sale signs are coming up, so. Yep, there's several, there's at least 3 or 4 lots I've seen pop up, so.
you know.
How come we don't insist on like 5-acre lots or something like that?
Cause 5-acre lots is county density. It's residential sprawl. We don't wanna run sewer lines 5 acres to get to the next property. We don't wanna have to pay for road maintenance for 5 acres to get around your house. That's, if you want a 5-acre lot, stay in the county. That's what those properties are there for.
And that's kind of how it works. So county does their subdivisions down to 5 acres to allow for that. And then if you want to be in a city and have, then you go smaller lots.
So what's the largest lot you can have for the city then? Cause the 50,000 is like 1 acre or
It's,
something like
yeah,
that.
slightly over an acre. Like, yeah, it is,
Yeah,
because
it's
you have to have 1
1.1.
acre minus the dwelling for ag use.
In the county or
No, in the city.
in the city?
It's slightly over an acre for us. It's like an acre and a quarter, I think, is our big lots.
So on the map there, I looked at the old map 21 and it had a lot of, I don't know if it was industrial or commercial, and now they've all been changed to have residential. Are we required to relabel all of these lots that?
No.
To residential?
No, so this is all for future planning purposes. Anything that has a current zoning designation keeps that zoning designation, and this is for future.
Right, but it looks like the future, you're changing everything to be a residential potential.
Potential. That doesn't
Right.
mean what's on the ground. If you look
Well,
at
then
where
why do
that,
we
that
wanna do
church
that?
was going in, or that CUP we saw earlier tonight, that property is zoned industrial, but it's on the future land use map as medium density residential. That doesn't change the underlying zoning.
No, I know that, but you're
Industrial.
giving them an opportunity then to do the rezone because you're saying, hey, we can make
Yes.
this residential. So why are we doing that? Why are we changing all these lots for this new plan to be residential?
We're not changing any lots to be residential.
On the plan? 'Cause I
So
looked at 2021, I tried to compare the two as best I could. It wasn't, I'm not, real good with the map part, but it looked like some lots were like commercial or industrial and now they're suddenly residential option.
Let me back up just for a minute. Emily was right. Our R1B residential zone has a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet and a maximum lot size of 1.25 acres. We did that because in the city of Rathdrum, you have to have 1 full acre, not including your homestead, in order to have livestock. So at 1.25 acres, your homestead up to 1/4 acre of house, and then your agricultural property, so you can keep livestock on parcels within the city in that zoning designation. But that's as large as we get. County goes down to 5, and I think they're doing special splits at 2.5 now.
So I'll
So,
look at the map, cause maybe I'm
Yeah.
confused or whatever, and
Look at the maps and
point
just send
where
us,
I'm seeing and.
send us a
y'all-
question, and then we
explain
can
it
try to
me.
answer you, or come to the next one, and we can talk about some
And
more.
when does this get voted and when does it come into effect? Is it
this may
January
get
1st of
voted
26?
next year, wintertime. We'll be working on it all through the summer and fall.
It will need to, it'll come into effect or be voted on probably in 2026, cause that's the 5-year mark. So we're gonna work on it this year, but we'll have public hearings, hopefully at town
So
hall or
it'll be
two.
almost till the end of 2026. That'll-
Well, it kinda depends on if we get through all of our stuff this year and get the feedback we're looking for, then we'll present it for adoption, earlier in 2026. But if we feel like we haven't received all the feedback, then we'll continue to do stuff until we're to a point where P&Z and council are ready to do an adoption.
And I think James at the council meeting made it really confusing because he kept saying, they're following the comprehensive plan as if that was a legal document. Where here you don't say that, and I know Laura was bringing that up, so it's really confusing at the council meeting. When you're trying to say Hayden Homes can do this because they're following the comprehensive plan.
The specific argument at the,
We can talk about Hayden Homes.
I don't wanna talk about it too much, but non-specifically, the argument was, that the property that we were maybe talking about was low-density residential, right? The code says that the MR zone is appropriate anywhere that the R1 zone is appropriate. So
But we're really looking at the code and using the verbiage that we're.
Yes.
Going by the comprehensive plan is something you shouldn't say, cause it was very
well,
confusing.
the argument was coming as reading a paragraph in the comprehensive plan.
Yes, so the requirements come in the code, but the code may have a requirement that links to the comp plan.
Cause you say it so differently here, you say We don't have to follow the comprehensive
By
plan.
itself, we don't.
Right, but then at the meeting, council meeting, we have to follow the comprehensive plan and don't give any other information to it. So it makes one believe that the comprehensive plan is God, and that's what tells us what we have to abide by.
I think what I was trying to do there was argue, the argument coming out was that it would needed to be rejected because it didn't meet the comp plan. And I was trying to respond that it did, therefore rejection wasn't necessary. I can see where that's confusing. But I apologize if I confused you.
A lot of us. And maybe even
You know,
council.
I have this thing
And
of
maybe
email.
even council though, because
Ask
you were
me.
telling them that it follows the comprehensive plan, we have to do this, so.
Ask me. I work here every single day. You know, I have
James
a phone.
loves to do a very
Almost.
explanatory emails if you ever ask him a question.
I got some doozies lined up.
Everybody
But
what falls asleep to reading, they're like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah. You
No,
probably
for real,
will.
if you don't understand something I said, I'm allowed to talk to you. It's the deciding body that can't talk to individuals.
Yeah, but you can
Right?
talk to staff. You can talk to James about it all day long.
Well, I just recommend going forward at the council meeting to change your verbiage.
Okay.
We'll try to make it more clear with this code update too. We're trying to make it clear like this is a criteria, the comp plan, this is a criteria you have to meet. We are trying to adjust it because we understand it is confusing. It confuses everybody.
Yeah.
So we want to make it more clear moving
Okay, I've
forward.
got two things. So, because of the issues that we're facing right now, wouldn't we want to, if it's possible, do we have to wait till a certain date till the comp plan renewal? Or wouldn't we want to start incorporating, get it approved at a sooner date, so we
We
can try to
want to work on it
alleviate
until
some
it's
of these?
done,
Yeah.
rather than piecemeal it together.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's just like code. We have to have a public hearing. It has to be adopted by council. Two
Yeah.
public hearings. I don't want to do that every month for the next year as we get some little pieces fixed.
Yeah.
Plus,
You-
any applications we may have right now are subject to what's in effect at the time of application. So it
Right.
wouldn't matter if we made adjustments in the meantime.
Well, I think
They're
you
still
should
subject.
just get it done
I'm
and
saying
through.
that, we really work on it and not have it go out until the end of 2026, like, let's come together.
Believe me,
let's get
I don't
this
intend to
done.
let
I
it
don't-
last that long.
We don't want to.
But I only have so many public meetings a month and so many of city events that are pre-scheduled, Rathdrum Days, these little things that we'll set up a booth at. And then I've gotta get town hall meetings squeezed in there. I wanna make sure that this update, represents, not necessarily the will of every single person in the town, but an overall concurrence on where they feel the city should go.
Yeah. And then it makes sense, cause we do not really like how the 2021 comprehensive plan doesn't seem to really make a whole lot of sense. We wanna make sure that the new one makes a bit more sense moving forward.
Yeah, I guess I'm speaking just because, we've been talking about this 9%, this rapid growth, and you said we're trying to stall it, kind of slow it down, but the way that the comp plan is written now, do we have those, we don't really have any measures in effect to help stall that.
Now,
So things could
I
explode
think
over
we
the
got
next
two
year
different
and a half.
things. One, the comp plan is a vision, it's not regulatory.
Yeah.
We do have code updates that we're making, and we can make those in the meantime, because they're kinda independent. And we generally do a couple of Title 15 updates, Title 12 updates every year, because we're making changes to those, so those,
Those will probably get done this year, the code updates will get done this year.
right, and those are what matter.
Truly
when-
matter.
when it comes to the decision-making process. For guideline, and we have the stuff that we have to follow, and we don't have to wait till next year for those code updates.
Okay.
Well, I think for the community, we would probably want this sooner than later, cause as right there on Lancaster and Meyer on the, south, is it west or what, south, I don't know, northwest side, they already have signs up. The other side, they already have signs up, cause they know what's coming down and now they're trying to get in
Yeah.
under the old code, and we don't want that, so we want just to move along.
Well, it is not our intention to spread the process out, like, we got this put together within the last couple of weeks to present it tonight. We're planning to take all of this workshop to council, not next week, but the following council meeting, July 9th. Then it'll go out for a town hall, so like, there will be things going, and then it'll probably come back to P and Z, and then it'll go to public hearing. So every month, there will probably be something about these updates, either at council, P and Z, or town hall related, out there. And Rathdrum Days, it'll be going out this summer for Rathdrum Days, so it's not our intention to push this off, it's our intention to keep it moving, so that we can hopefully get something adopted later this fall, winter, early next year.
So there's no way to stall these properties that are being sold that we know are going to
One,
want to build?
the sale of property has nothing to do with us. You
Or
can-
the application submission, unfortunately.
Right,
we
like,
can't stall
we
them.
don't have anything to do with the buying and selling of real property.
No, but they're gonna put in an app, like, the people we're not talking about wants to rezone, but they haven't bought it yet because they wanna
yeah.
rezone it. So that's the same thing that's gonna happen here with these other lots that are up for
Potentially.
sale.
Potentially.
That's, why they're selling it, they're making buku bucks, and by doing that, they're selling it to property owners. The name we don't wanna say reached out to the builder specifically and asked them to help them with the rezone. So we know that, so how do we stop that from occurring?
I don't
Buy the property.
Yeah.
Is
That's
it
the one
possible?
true answer. If you don't want a property developed, buy it.
Is it possible to phase out the R3 in the code before the comprehensive plan
Yes,
is
we
approved?
can do our code updates.
Because
Like-
for me,
sooner
what
rather
I'm
than
hearing
later.
is
Like
I'm
that.
hearing people are saying, we want the R3 phased out now.
Yes. We can run that as a public
And
hearing.
run
like
that,
in
and then it
July.
have that mix, where it has the variety, like phase that out now so that anybody that wants to
Yes.
rezone or annex,
So we
that
don't
they're
have
with
R3
the
available.
new code and not with the old
I
code.
can do that we can do that at the next meeting.
So
We can
when
have a
the,
public hearing.
when the R3 is phased out, what would be the smallest lot?
8,500 will be for an entire subdivision. You can do R2A at 8,500, or you would have to do an either MR or MRA, in which you are required to do the different lot sizes of different amounts. So you could do small ones at 6,000, but you also require to do medium and
Oh.
large in MRs.
Well, it sounds like from what I'm hearing is from our audience that they would prefer that those be run as soon as possible,
Okay.
so that
Happy to do
the
that.
code is updated, and then obviously the comprehensive plan will take longer to update those. But if those amendments to the code are run sooner, then
Yeah.
that means that the people that are annexing or changing their zone, they'll be with the new code and not with the old code.
Yeah, we can do an update at the next meeting. I can write a public hearing. We can do the phase out the R3. We'll have this update we haven't done a workshop at council yet with these updates, so some of these might be a later update that we do afterwards, but we can at least get the R3 phased out
Yeah.
starting next month.
Because that's kind of what I'm hearing. I could be wrong, but
And the
that's what
RTD,
I'm
we can
hearing
phase
is
out the
they would
RTD
like.
to take off duplexes and triplexes as well. We can run that next month at here for P&Z.
I think that might
Yeah.
solve some problems. Yes.
I mean, go ahead, sir.
Does that mean when you go to change the codes, as soon as possible? I know how government works, so it's gonna take time, I get it. Does that also mean you can boost and update the criteria
We can.
that developers seem to like to run to and say, I only have to meet these
Yep.
three?
So that's part of our.
Are we gonna be able to raise the
Yes.
bar on criteria?
Part of our plan of this whole code update is to boost those criteria. Like I said, we haven't done a workshop. We try to do a workshop with those criteria at P&Z and at council before we adopt them, and I haven't done that yet. But we will do a workshop with those criteria at the next meeting. We will do a workshop with council next month, and so even if we start with doing the R3 next month, we can follow up in August by doing a criteria update as well, as soon as you guys have and council have had a chance to workshop those. So within the next 2 months, we could have the code updated, or the next, within the next couple months, we can have the code updated. And then the comp plan will follow. But yes, it is our goal to update the criteria for
It
each
just seemed like a
of our
low
zones.
bar in some cases, that they're easy to jump over
Yeah.
to meet the criteria.
That's a fair point, and that's something that we've heard you guys express concerns on, that there's not enough criteria, so we've added 3 or 4 additional criteria to each of the residential zones, I think, to try to boost those, to address concerns. I think it's 4 that we've added, so instead of, there's 3 criteria, now there's 7 that they have to meet.
With the caveat that raising the bar is okay, raising it intentionally so high that nobody can get over it is not something that.
Well, I know the state's gonna step on you a little bit.
They have to be reasonable
They still have to be
cri-
reasonable,
criteria.
they still have to be, objective, they can't be arbitrarily applied, they still have to be express. So, but we have added additional ones that we're proposing in the update, for sure.
Have you looked at other
Makes sense.
towns in our immediate area to see what kind of criteria they're throwing out?
We are working on that
Now, that's a
too.
good one that we should be adding.
Yes, that's part of it all. We've kind of started with our own, and that is the next step that we are working on as in preparation for this workshop at council with this is to see what other cities have too. Yes, it's all part of that, yeah.
My last question, James, is on your map there where you had all the faded green of your hypothetical 5-year extension. Can you just give me a quickly north, south, east, west road? I couldn't read it, I was going blind, but just as a general concept of how far north, south, east, and west are you thinking?
Oh gosh, that doesn't say anything. I don't even think I put road labels on here. So the
eyeball it.
Hutter
Well,
was
I guess that's the
east.
hang on.
Oh, there's a map over there.
So more or less, this boundary over here on the right-hand side, that's Hutter Road, except it truncates right here, so it doesn't make it. Oh
Can you
gosh,
put it up there?
I gotta get rid of this.
There we go, okay.
So
Okay.
Hutter to the east?
So this eastern margin is Hutter Road. You can see it right there.
Because a lot of that's Hayden city limits already.
Alright. And then Greensferry.
Greensferry to the west.
This is Greensferry, so it's one road past that. And then this is Wyoming.
Hayden Avenue to the south.
This would be Hayden Avenue, the southern boundary. And then, geez, what is that road?
Sturgeon, or is it Twin Lakes Avenue?
Labels on this. It's just, I think it's Sturgeon, it doesn't go all the way through.
No, I don't have roads on that map.
We're doing great
It's
here.
close to, it's either, Sturgeon or Twin Lakes Avenue. It's probably more like Sturgeon.
They were down earlier.
They're still down.
They're still down.
I can't pull up a map for you.
But that gives you an idea.
No, that's good.
I mean, it's more or less what happened on this future land use map is the western boundary stayed the same, the southern boundary shifted up, and then we shifted up a little bit to the northeast. The northwest is still the mountain, we're not going that way anytime soon. And if we go any further directly east, we just run into Hayden.
James, I just had one last question, because you brought it up a little bit ago, about the Bagel Ranch, like if it was found that they needed to expand the road. That so it's right next to Wright Street, in between Wright and Stevens, those are all homes, so where would it expand, how would they expand?
Both east and west of that property, full dedication of right-of-way has been granted already to the city. So just on Bakel down there, that parcel actually extends to the middle of the road. So the dedication of that north half of Bakel Road within the boundaries of that parcel will be required to be dedicated to the city.
They don't dedicate like the whole road, it's just where it meets their parcel. That's where they dedicate the width. That's adjacent to their parcel.
If you shoot me an email, I can give you a map that you can actually see and make sense to help to explain that.
Okay.
You as well, I can put labels on one of these things so it makes more sense for you.
The setback that you see the fence along Bakel between Stevens and the other one you said?
Right.
Why the fence is so far back is because the road's already been planned to expand.
Right,
That's
that
why
fence
it's
is
there.
on the right-of-way boundary. They don't own that ground in between the asphalt and that fence. That belongs to the city. We have that so that road can be widened. Right now, we wouldn't be able to widen that stretch right there at Baker Ranch because we don't own that right-of-way.
Gotcha. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank
Are there
you.
any other
I look
questions?
forward to the things being done. I forgot what they were called.
Code updates.
I too like things
Updates.
being done.
Code
Like long
updates.
emails describing everything.
Thank you all for the input.
Yes, truly,
Yeah, yeah.
thank you.
And thank you for taking the time to, I know sometimes we can be a little outspoken, but we do appreciate
No, I think oftentimes outspokenness results in frustration, and part of that frustration results from the fact that we see this every single day, right? This is just another day for us. For you guys, it's not, right? You don't see it every day, you don't deal with it every day.
The impacts of it are, we live it.
Right, but, I mean, you know what I'm trying to say, some of the frustration comes because of lack of communication. I'm not looking at it through your eyes, right? I can't, because I have to objectively view it from the planner's chair.
That's why we really appreciate you guys coming and sharing with us your concerns.
All right, so any more questions at all? All right. Well then, seeing there is no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Wait a second.
All right, motion passes.
Nick's final motion.
No,
What?
next month.
What?
July's, yeah.
No.
Yeah, that'll be it.
No. Here you go.
Awesome. Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Usually it's